Do you love novels, but don't have time to read thousands of chapters? Imagine listening to your favorite stories anytime, anywhere, while driving, working, or relaxing. Here, you'll find premium audiobooks from Pocket FM, Audible, Webnovel, Wuxia, and more, all in one place. Every novel is a one-time payment, no subscriptions, no monthly fees, lifetime access. The full novel list and prices are in the description below. Once you choose a novel, just DM me on Telegram, WhatsApp, or Discord. After payment via PayPal, Ko-fi, or Patreon, you get permanent access to the audiobook on Telegram. And if the novel is ongoing, all future updates are included. Check the description, pick your story, and start listening today. Before we start the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Enjoy, and let's go.
301, Chapter 301. Blow gourds? How? Tanjiro asked, confused. Zenitsu and Inashuk also examined the gourds curiously. Inashuk immediately blew into one. Because his mouth sealed the gourd, he blew forcefully, nearly collapsing his lungs. Sumi explained, seeing Inashuk's attempt, like Inashuk-san, blow into the gourd. Kyo continued, Sister Shinobu makes Kaneo blow gourds while practicing total concentration constant. Sister Shinobu still practices it, so we gave you these gourds to train. Tanjiro became interested. Interesting training. Do we have to blow a sound to pass? Zenitsu tried blowing into his gourd. Neo said, no, you have to blow it up. Zenitsu jumped, yelling, what? Blow it up? Is that even possible? It's not a balloon, it's a hard gourd. He tapped Tanjiro's forehead with the gourd. Hard, hard. Though Zenitsu didn't use much force, Tanjiro felt the gourd's hardness. Sumi added, yes, and this gourd is special, harder than normal gourds. You'll gradually use larger ones. Kaneo-san can already blow up gourds this size. Neo and Kyo carried in a massive gourd, almost as large as they were. It was easily big enough to fit one of them inside. Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk were stunned. They looked at their small gourds, then at the giant one, and cried out in unison, what? That girl can blow up a gourd that big. Kaneo, such a small girl, can blow up a gourd that big. Monster, monster. Their perceptions were shattered, their male pride wounded. Tanjiro understood why Ryaji said his breathing wasn't strong enough. He quickly recovered. If we master total concentration constant, we can blow up that big gourd too. Let's start with the small ones. Inashuk immediately agreed, that's right. I'll blow up a gourd bigger than that girl's. Zenitsu used Shinobu as motivation. Shinobu-san, I won't disappoint you. Then we can go on missions together. 302, Chapter 302. Tanjiro diligently trained, and so did Ryaji. Under Ryaji's rigorous training, the Moonslayer trainee's strength had vastly improved. Shinichi showed the most significant progress. Despite starting with a weaker foundation due to his age, his improvement was remarkable. After seeing results, Ryaji initiated total concentration constant training for the Moonslayer unit, recognizing it as the key to unlocking their potential. He implemented an elimination system. Trainees who couldn't master total concentration constant within a month would be dismissed. Without reaching this new level, even Ryaji's training would have limited effectiveness. Breaking through to a new level was crucial for accessing deeper techniques. This elimination system created intense pressure among the trainees. 20-odd days of training had fostered their respect for Ryaji and the Moonslayer unit. Their bodies didn't lie, their strength had significantly increased. They increasingly wanted to stay with Ryaji and continue their training. The threat of dismissal fueled their dedication to mastering total concentration constant. Their commitment rivaled Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk's. During this time, the swordsmith delivered Tanjiro and Inashuk's new Nichiren blades to headquarters. The crow informed Tanjiro, who excitedly found Inashuk. Inashuk, our new Nichiren blades have arrived. Let's go see them. Seriously? Inashuk was thrilled. Their blades had been destroyed at Natagyamo Mountain. Tanjiro nodded, yes. I heard it from the crow. Let's go. Inashuk urged. They ran towards the butterfly mansion. On the way, Tanjiro spotted Hagenjika and another swordsmith, both masked, slowly approaching. Tanjiro waved, Hagenjika-san. Long time no see. Thanks again for forging our Nichiren blades. How have you been? Hagenjika didn't respond. As Tanjiro spoke, he handed the new Nichiren blades, encased in wooden boxes, to the other swordsmith and charged towards Tanjiro. As Hagenjika approached, Tanjiro's joyful expression froze. Hagenjika was charging at him with a small knife in each hand, radiating an unfriendly aura. 303 Chapter 303 As Hagenjika reached Tanjiro, he lunged with his knives. Tanjiro, startled, sidestepped, narrowly avoiding the blades. Hagenjika, carried by his momentum, stopped several feet behind Tanjiro. Tanjiro, breaking out in a cold sweat, stammered, "Hagenjika-san, what's wrong?" Hagenjika, controlling his temper, slowly turned, angrily shouting, "You brat! You broke my knife! Unforgivable!" Understanding the reason for his anger, Tanjiro quickly apologized, "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. But Hagenjika-san, let me explain. I fought a member of the 12 Kazuki. They were incredibly strong, and that's why the blade broke. I almost died." Hagenjika ignored Tanjiro's explanation, approaching him and repeatedly poking his cheeks. "The blade breaking has nothing to do with that. It's all your fault. You're too weak. That's why it broke. My knives don't break otherwise." His anger escalating, he poked faster, then slapped Tanjiro across the face, sending him spinning. "So, I'm going to kill you." Hagenjika lunged again with his knives. Tanjiro fled to avoid being injured. Inosuke, seeing the chase, joined in. "Are you playing tag? I want to play too." Tanjiro ran into the butterfly mansion, followed by Hagenjika. Shinobu, amused by the sight, quipped, "Is this some kind of special training?" While chasing Tanjiro, Hagenjika explained to Shinobu, "This brat broke my knife. I'll kill him to avenge it." Finally, Tanjiro, fueled by his youth and stamina, wore Hagenjika down. He stopped, turning to the panting swordsmith. "Hagenjika-san, you must be calmer now. The knife wasn't broken by me, it was lower 5 of the 12 Kazuki. They were incredibly strong." Hagenjika panted, "I understand. Help me up." Tanjiro helped him to his feet. Later, Tanjiro, Inosuke, Hagenjika, and the other swordsmith gathered in a guest room at the butterfly mansion, served tea by hidden members. The other swordsmith explained to Tanjiro, "Please don't mind him. Hagenjika-san is a passionate man, he loves his knives more than anything." Tanjiro replied, "I understand. I understand Hagenjika-san's feelings." 304 Chapter 304 That's good. Even in the swordsmith village, few are so devoted to their blades. Tanjiro agreed. Hagenjika's devotion was extreme, he'd even tried to kill someone over a broken blade. Hagenjika lay on the tatami mat, hand under his head, his gaze fixed on Tanjiro. Tanjiro watched him cautiously, fearing another attack. "Right, I haven't introduced myself. My name is Kozo Kanamari. I forged Inosuke-sama's blades. I hope they serve him well in battle." The other swordsmith introduced himself. Tanjiro looked at Inosuke, who sat on the wooden walkway outside, holding 2 new Nichiren blades forged by Kozo Kanamari. Unlike his previous, chipped blades, these were pristine and sharp. As Inosuke held them, the metallic color shifted to blue, eventually covering the entire blade. Kozo Kanamari, observing Inosuke, praised, "Beautiful. A deep blue glow. Rich and well suited to the blade." Hagenjika jumped up, kneading Tanjiro's cheeks. "Look at him, a blue Nichiren blade. Why is yours black, you brat?" Tanjiro endured the kneading silently. Now Inosuke has new blades. His old ones were chipped, Tanjiro said, changing the subject. Kozo Kanamari asked Inosuke, curious about his opinion, "How does the grip feel?" "This is my first time forging blades for a dual wielder. Besides sharpness, a good blade's grip is crucial. An uncomfortable grip limits performance." Inosuke didn't answer but examined the blades closely. Something felt off, but he couldn't pinpoint it. After a long silence, he went to the water basin in the courtyard and began selecting stones. Everyone watched him curiously. He chose suitable stones and began striking the sharp blades, creating a series of evenly spaced chips. "Now they look the part," Inosuke declared, satisfied. Tanjiro, Hagenjika, and Kozo Kanamari were shocked. "I'll kill you, you little brat." Kozo Kanamari, enraged at the destruction of his blades, mirrored Hagenjika's earlier reaction, threatening to kill Inosuke. 305 Chapter 305 Tanjiro quickly intervened, realizing Kozo Kanamari's attachment to his blades was comparable to Hagenjika's. However, Tanjiro understood Kozo Kanamari's reaction, knowing Inashuk had intentionally chipped the blades. This also explained the evenly spaced chips on Inashuk's previous blades. He'd created them himself using stones. Tanjiro had mistakenly assumed they were battle damage. "I'm sorry, Kozo Kanamari-san. I'm sorry." Tanjiro profusely apologized for Inashuk. Inashuk, noticing the commotion, turned to Kozo Kanamari. Unfazed by Kozo Kanamari's anger, Inashuk picked up the other blade, chipped it with a stone, creating another series of even notches. Kozo Kanamari's rage reached its peak. "You idiot! Unforgivable! I'll kill you!" Tanjiro almost couldn't hold him back, resorting to his breathing style to restrain him. Hagenjika secretly chuckled. Inashuk had damaged Kozo Kanamari's blades, not his own, so he felt no anger. He found the situation amusing because he'd never seen anyone deliberately chip their blades before. Hagenjika tried to calm Kozo Kanamari. "Alright, Tetsuketsu. This boarhead is probably crazy, don't worry about him. Maybe it's his habit, he doesn't need a flawless blade. Next time, make it to his liking." Despite this, Kozo Kanamari remained agitated at the destruction of his carefully crafted blades. Tanjiro, echoing Hagenjika's words, explained to Kozo Kanamari, "Kozo Kanamari-san, Hagenjika-san is right. Inashuk prefers blades with evenly spaced chips. He says it feels like a wild animal tearing into prey when he uses them against demons." Hagenjika changed the subject. "Alright, the blades are delivered. Let's go see that two-toned Nichiren blade." Kozo Kanamari's attention was diverted. During the journey, Hagenjika had repeatedly mentioned forging a blade with two colors for a demon slayer. Kozo Kanamari was eager to see this historically rare two-toned Nichiren blade. Seeing Hagenjika and Kozo Kanamari leave, Tanjiro knew they were going to Ryaji, the owner of the two-toned blade. Tanjiro watched Inashuk testing his new blades, deciding not to involve him and followed alone, thinking it best to keep Inashuk away from Kozo Kanamari for the time being. They arrived at Ryaji's courtyard. Ryaji greeted them and asked Tanjiro, "Tanjiro, did Hagenjika-san deliver the newly forged Nichiren blades?" 306, Chapter 306. Tanjiro nodded. Inashuk's Nichiren blade also arrived. "Kozo Kanamari-san here forged it." He introduced Kozo Kanamari to Ryaji. Ryaji greeted him, "Nice to meet you. I'm Ryaji." "Nice to meet you," Kozo Kanamari replied politely. Hagenjika interrupted, "Enough pleasantries. Ryaji, show him your two-toned Nichiren blade." Ryaji understood Hagenjika wanted his colleague to see his unique blade. He led them inside, removed his Nichiren blade from his belt, and placed it on the table. "Please, examine it." Kozo Kanamari picked it up and eagerly drew the blade. Instead of two colors, the blade was its original metallic color. The wave-like pattern was still visible. Kozo Kanamari looked at Hagenjika, his confused expression silently asking, "Where are the two colors?" Hagenjika explained, "A Nichiren blade's color is determined by the wielder's breathing style. Since you haven't learned any breathing style, the blade shows its natural color." Hagenjika sheathed the blade and returned it to the table. "You demonstrate." Ryaji retrieved the blade and, with a flourish, drew it before them. The metallic color was replaced by blue and green, making the blade strikingly beautiful. Hagenjika proudly declared to Kozo Kanamari, "See, two distinct colors." He was naturally proud of his creation. Kozo Kanamari's eyes widened in amazement. "Incredible." He reached out and carefully touched the textured surface of the blade, avoiding the sharp edge. Hagenjika then posed a question he'd had for 2 months. "This two-toned blade has been with you for 2 months. Does it have any special properties?" Ryaji replied, "This blade increases bleeding, inflicting a temporary bleeding effect on the target. However, it's largely ineffective against demons." Hagenjika agreed the bleeding effect wouldn't be significantly detrimental to demons. It was far less effective than a demon-slaying blade's ability to suppress regeneration. Bleeding and regeneration suppression were fundamentally different. A demon's powerful regeneration would quickly heal any bleeding. Therefore, the bleeding effect was essentially negated by a demon's regenerative abilities. In contrast, a demon-slaying blade's regeneration suppression directly countered a demon's healing. This comparison highlighted the insignificance of the two-toned blade's bleeding effect against demons. 307, Chapter 307. A month later, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk mastered total concentration constant, maintaining it even while sleeping. They could now burst the giant gourds and matched Kaneo in water balloon fights and tag, regaining their confidence. The Moonslayer unit's 1-month deadline yielded surprising results. Excluding Ryaji, of the 7 trainees, only 1 female trainee mastered total concentration constant. 2 others couldn't even maintain it for 10 minutes. 4 others showed progress, lasting several hours. Among the 4, Shinichi Murata was the most advanced, maintaining total concentration breathing for 12 hours, though not mastering it completely. Given time, he'd likely master it. His brother, Shinichi Murata, due to age and aptitude, lagged behind, managing only 6 hours. The remaining 2 trainees lasted only around 3 hours. Due to these unexpected results, Ryaji only dismissed the 2 who couldn't manage 10 minutes, keeping Shinichi, and the other 2 who showed potential. This delighted the remaining trainees. Ryaji keeping them meant they had room for improvement, a prospect they welcomed. However, the other 2 trainees expressed their dissatisfaction. If the others could stay, why not them? It's unfair. If they can stay, why not us? Yeah, they didn't master total concentration constant either. They voiced their strong objections to Ryaji's decision. Ryaji smiled faintly. He wasn't looking down on them. Their unwillingness to leave indicated their acceptance of the Moonslayer unit and him. You couldn't even manage 10 minutes. What reason do I have to keep you? Perhaps expecting you to master total concentration constant within a month was too much, but your performance gives me no reason to keep you. If you're dissatisfied, I'll give you another month. Maintain total concentration breathing for 6 hours, and you can rejoin. If not, you'll fall behind and become a burden. Total concentration constant is essential for entering a new realm. If you want to grow stronger, master it. Ryaji's response was clear, offering a second chance while providing a path to improvement. 308, Chapter 308. Ryaji gave them another chance knowing they couldn't meet his requirements in a month. If they could, they wouldn't have struggled to reach 10 minutes. After his words, they fell silent, understanding he'd been generous. Even with another month, they couldn't maintain total concentration breathing for 6 hours. If it were that easy, they wouldn't be struggling to reach 10 minutes. One trainee, having accepted this, knelt before Ryaji, bowing deeply. Though I can't remain in Moonslayer, thank you for your training over the past month. I'll work towards mastering total concentration constant. He left with a confident air. The other trainee, unable to bring himself to bow, gave a 90-degree bow, stubbornly saying, I'll seize this opportunity. I'll return to Moonslayer. He also left. He doubted he could meet Ryaji's conditions. Ryaji turned to the remaining 5 trainees. Don't slack off, especially those who haven't mastered total concentration constant. Since you're staying, master it quickly. The Moonslayer unit is nearly complete. Introduce yourselves formally. You'll face life or death situations together, so familiarity and trust are essential. Shinichi Murata, the oldest, went first. I'm Shinichi Murata. I use wind breathing. His younger brother, Shinichi Murata, followed. I'm Kachi Murata, Shinichi's brother. I also use wind breathing. Their shared breathing style suggested they likely trained under the same instructor. The only female trainee who'd mastered total concentration constant spoke next. I'm Kyujao Hattori. I use flame breathing. Kyujao Hattori had crimson shoulder-length hair and piercing red eyes, giving her a striking appearance. She was a tall, beautiful woman with a commanding presence. She was taller than everyone present, even Ryaji, who was over 170 centimeters. Ryaji, though not short, was only a few centimeters taller than the others without Hattori. During training, Ryaji had learned about Hattori's serious, rarely smiling nature. She possessed a resolute demeanor, making her ideal leadership material. 309, Chapter 309. My name is Siakairo Sakata. I use sound breathing. Siakairo Sakata had long black hair tied in a ponytail, resembling a wandering swordsman. He was considerably shorter and less muscular than Tengen Uzui, the sound Hashira. I'm Kenta Inoue. I use water breathing, Kenta Inoue said, adjusting his glasses. Kenta Inoue wore round glasses and had a scholarly appearance, making it hard to imagine him as a demon slayer. His nearsightedness hadn't stopped him, but Ryaji wondered how he'd cope if his glasses fell off during a fierce battle. Ryaji had expected him to be among those eliminated, but he'd persevered. Ryaji reintroduced himself. Let me reintroduce myself. I'm Ryaji, your training officer and captain of the Moonslayer unit. He continued, I'll make Kyujao Hattori the captain of the second unit. I'll likely be operating independently, so you must get along well with the members of the first unit. Shinji questioned, Ryaji-senpai, why are there first and second units? Won't you be on missions with us? Shinichi added, we trained so hard, and now we're only in the second unit. Who's in the first unit? Ryaji answered, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk are in the first unit. They've mastered total concentration constant, making them stronger than those who haven't. Shinichi realized Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk were from the same training group as Shinji. He hadn't known they'd mastered total concentration constant. He felt his rank as a Class A member was meaningless. He had no status. Despite being in the second unit, Shinichi, Kachi, Siakairo, and Kenta didn't complain they hadn't fully mastered total concentration constant, and Ryaji's decision to keep them was merciful. However, Kyujao Hattori directly requested, Captain Ryaji, I want to join the first unit. I've mastered total concentration constant. She believed the first unit was superior and preferred to be with stronger individuals. Though not explicitly looking down on the others, her actions implied it. Ryaji rejected her request. You can't join the first unit. 310, Chapter 310. Why? Kyujao Hattori demanded. Ryaji's reasoning for keeping Kyujao Hattori separate from Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk was simple. Zenitsu. Placing the assertive Kyujao Hattori with Zenitsu would inevitably lead to harassment. Beyond Zenitsu's lechery, Kyujao Hattori wouldn't be able to fully utilize her leadership skills in the first unit. Shinichi, Kachi, Siakairo, and Kenta functioned best as a coordinated team, making Kyujao Hattori a better fit for them. It wasn't that she couldn't be in the first unit, but it wasn't the optimal choice. In the first unit, Shinichi, Kachi, Siakairo, and Kenta would lack a core leader. If Ryaji led them, the others would have little opportunity to fight. If he fought, they'd be unnecessary. Switching Tanjiro to the second unit as the core would be good, but without someone to manage Zenitsu, he'd likely take advantage of Kyujao Hattori's presence. Besides Tanjiro, Zenitsu and Inashuk's personalities made them unsuitable leaders. Zenitsu's cowardice in crucial moments could negatively impact the team, despite his sleeping state mitigating this. He was still unsuitable for leadership. Inashuk's impulsive actions could lead the team to their deaths, making him an unsuitable leader as well. Ryaji said calmly to Kyujao Hattori, the first unit is unconventional. There's also a lovesick bachelor. If you don't mind harassment, you can join. Shinji knew Ryaji meant Zenitsu. During the final selection at the Fujikazan Mountains, Shinji had witnessed Zenitsu's fervent pursuit of women. This had led to a humorous incident where Zenitsu confessed to a very cute boy, mistaking him for a girl. Shinji admitted he wouldn't have known either, making Zenitsu's mistake understandable. Kyujao Hattori considered this, ultimately deciding Ryaji's initial decision was best. She'd spent nearly 2 months with the second unit and understood Shinichi, Kachi, Siakairo, and Kenta. I'll stay in the second unit, Kyujao Hattori said. Ryaji warned, opportunities to interact with the first unit will arise, you might even work together. Given your beauty, prepare for harassment from that lovesick bachelor. While Ryaji could prevent Zenitsu from doing anything extreme, he'd undoubtedly take advantage of the situation. 311, Chapter 311. Night fell, and a crow landed in Ryaji's room, croaking, Emergency. Emergency. Casualties on the Infinity train are mounting, passengers are mysteriously disappearing. Ryaji and the Moonslayer unit are ordered to rendezvous with Kyojuro Rengoku, the Flame Hashira, on the Infinity train. The emergency order reached not only Ryaji but also Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk, Unit 1, and Kyujao Hattori, Shinichi, Kachi, Siakairo, and Kenta, Unit 2. Shinichi understood the gravity of the situation. With Ryaji and Kyojuro Rengoku leading, the mission would be as dangerous as Natagyamo Mountain. After receiving the order, Tanjiro bid farewell to Kaneo, Aoi Kanzaki, and Kotoha, Kani, and Samaire. He first encountered Aoi Kanzaki airing bedding in the courtyard. He explained his impending mission. Aoi listened, a hint of sadness in her eyes but little visible emotion. As a medical professional at the Butterfly Mansion, she'd seen this many times. The Demon Slayer Corps wasn't a retirement home once healed, the Demon Slayers returned to their duties. Aoi had never seen anyone return after leaving, knowing they likely wouldn't. This explained her stoicism. Aoi said calmly, "Is that so? Leaving already? I'm glad to have spent this short but fulfilling time with you. Be careful." Tanjiro sincerely thanked her. "Thank you. Thanks to your care, we can continue fighting demons." Aoi showed no joy at his thanks, instead self-deprecatingly saying, "Don't thank me. I'm a coward who barely survived the final selection. I have psychological trauma and can't fight demons anymore. This is all I can do." Seeing healed demon slayers return to battle reminded Aoi of her own cowardice. Tanjiro said, "That doesn't matter. You healed my wounds, making us inseparable. I'll fight for both of us. If I get hurt again, I'll rely on you. Goodbye, Aoi-chan." Tanjiro cheerfully ran off. Aoi watched him go, calling out, "Don't die." "I won't." Tanjiro promised, turning back. After bidding farewell to Aoi, Tanjiro searched for Kaneo, finally finding her lost in thought in the back garden. "Found you." He cheerfully greeted her. "Kaneo, thank you for helping us train. We're leaving for the Infinity Train mission." 312, Chapter 312. Kaneo didn't respond to Tanjiro, only smiling softly at him. The silence stretched, making Tanjiro feel awkward. He wasn't sure how to break the ice. Kaneo was always quiet during their training. Tanjiro had never seen her initiate a conversation, not even with Aoi Kanzaki. Then, Kaneo suddenly held out her hand, as if about to do something. Tanjiro's curiosity was piqued. In her outstretched hand, a coin rested between her thumb and forefinger. With a flick of her thumb, she sent the coin spinning vertically into the air. It fell due to gravity. As it landed before her, she swiftly caught it and pressed it against the back of her other hand. Slowly lifting her hand, she checked which side faced her. Seeing the reverse side, she said, "I'm simply following my teacher's instructions. You don't need to thank me. Be careful on your journey." Tanjiro was overjoyed that she had responded and decided to try and talk to her. "What did you just toss?" Tanjiro asked curiously. "Be careful on your journey." Kaneo didn't answer directly, repeating her previous phrase. "Was it a coin? With heads and tails? Why did you toss it?" Tanjiro pressed, still curious. "Be careful on your journey." Kaneo repeated, seemingly unwilling to elaborate. "Kaneo, please tell me." Tanjiro persisted. Finally, after Tanjiro's persistent questioning, Kaneo explained, "For decisions outside of direct orders, I use this. I tossed it to decide whether to talk to you. Heads means no, tails means yes. It landed on tails, so I spoke. Be careful on your journey." She ended with her usual phrase. Tanjiro, however, continued to question her. "Why not decide yourself? What do you think?" "I don't care. I don't care about anything, so I can't decide," Kaneo replied. The coin toss had already determined her answer, so she wouldn't change her mind. Tanjiro was somewhat troubled by her apathetic nature. "I don't think there's anything you shouldn't care about. That must mean your heart is too small." After a moment of contemplation, Tanjiro suddenly clapped his hands. "Kaneo, could I borrow that coin?" Sure." Kaneo was slightly surprised but handed the coin to Tanjiro. "Thank you," Tanjiro said gratefully. He then moved a few meters away from Kaneo, turned, and said, "Then, let's decide by coin toss." "Decide what?" Kaneo asked, curiously and a little perplexed. 313, Chapter 313. Tanjiro held the coin out towards Kaneo, saying, "This will decide whether you'll follow your heart from now on." After saying this, Tanjiro flipped the coin high into the air. Because it was his first time flipping a coin, he didn't quite get the force right, and it went incredibly high. "That's too high. Let's just say it's heads. If it's heads, you'll follow your heart." Tanjiro looked up at the rapidly spinning coin in the air and made a decision. Because Tanjiro was using a coin toss to decide for her, Kaneo felt an unusual nervousness and fixed her gaze on the spinning coin high above. Tanjiro then continuously adjusted his position to prepare to catch the falling coin. Finally, Tanjiro caught the coin. Excited, he ran towards Kaneo, exclaiming, "I got it! I got it! Kaneo! Now watch closely, I'm going to open my hand." He slowly began to reveal the coin. Kaneo was very nervous and curious, silently wondering to herself, "I wonder which side it will be." He caught it with his back to me, so I couldn't see. When Tanjiro finally opened his hand, the coin, resting on the back of his hand, clearly showed heads, the side Tanjiro had hoped for. Tanjiro excitedly asked Kaneo, "Kaneo, see? It's heads, heads." Then, Tanjiro jumped up in excitement. "It's decided. From now on, Kaneo will follow her own heart. Here's your coin back." Tanjiro extended his hand towards Kaneo. Thinking Tanjiro was returning her coin, Kaneo reached out to take it. Just as Kaneo's fingers touched the coin, Tanjiro suddenly grabbed her hand and brought his face close to hers. Kaneo was startled, a rare look of alarm appearing on her face as she looked at Tanjiro. She seemed to think Tanjiro might do something inappropriate. "Try to change. I hope that the next time I see you, you'll be able to decide with your heart, not by flipping a coin. That's all I have to say. Everyone's probably waiting for me. See you again sometime." After saying this, Tanjiro released Kaneo's hand and ran off. Watching Tanjiro leave, Kaneo couldn't sit still. She stood up and called out to Tanjiro, "Why did it land on heads? He tossed it facing me. There shouldn't have been a chance for him to cheat," Kaneo muttered to herself. Hearing this, Tanjiro suddenly stopped, turned around, and replied to Kaneo, "Because your heart wished for heads, didn't it?" Tanjiro then gave Kaneo a very reassuring smile. At that moment, Tanjiro's words and smile shattered the heavy chains that had been binding Kaneo's heart. Shinobu and Ryaji, watching from the second-story window, both smiled faintly at the interaction between Tanjiro and Kaneo below. "That smells like love, doesn't it, Ryaji?" Shinobu said, hugging Ryaji tightly. 314, Chapter 314. While Tanjiro and Kaneo were saying their goodbyes, Shinobu and Ryaji were also exchanging farewells on the second floor of the house. Their goodbye, naturally, involved a fair amount of affectionate intimacy. Ryaji, stroking Shinobu's slender waist, said, "Who knows? Love is unpredictable. Isn't that how things are between us?" Shinobu playfully retorted, "Are you finished feeling me up? If you are, it's time to go." Ryaji pulled his hand away, then pinched Shinobu's nose playfully, teasing, "Who's the one who kept holding onto me, not letting me go?" Although they hadn't been a couple for very long, they were in the heady stage of new romance and spent a lot of time being affectionate with each other. Shinobu released Ryaji, stood on tiptoe to kiss him, then thoughtfully tidied his clothes before saying, "Go." Ryaji didn't say anything more, disappearing in a flash. Ryaji's success in winning Shinobu's affection wasn't just due to his strength. If he'd been weak, he wouldn't have attracted her attention, and the rest wouldn't have happened. Meanwhile, outside the Butterfly Mansion, the members of the Moonslayer Unit's second team were already waiting for Ryaji. Neo, Kyo, and Sumi were also waiting outside, ready to give Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk a final send-off. Zenitsu complained, "That Tanjiro guy, he's been gone so long. I wonder if he's gotten himself stuck with Kaneo or Aoi Kanzaki." Zenitsu and Inashuk, already changed back into their usual clothes, headed towards the entrance. Inashuk ignored Zenitsu. His personality meant he had absolutely no interest in what Zenitsu was saying. When Zenitsu and Inashuk reached the entrance, Neo, Kyo, and some asked them, "Zenitsu, Inashuk, where's Tanjiro?" Zenitsu replied casually, "He's still saying goodbye to Kaneo and Aoi Kanzaki. Probably can't bear to leave them." Inashuk's attention was immediately drawn to 3 giant gourds that were placed outside the Butterfly Mansion. "What are those giant gourds doing here?" Neo explained, "It's a final test we've prepared for you. If you can burst these giant gourds, it proves you've truly mastered total concentration, constant. That will put our minds at ease." Just then, Kachi Murata greeted Zenitsu and Inashuk. "Zenitsu, Inashuk." Zenitsu looked in the direction of the voice and quickly spotted Kachi Murata, but his sharp eyes also noticed Kyujou Hattori standing next to him. In an instant, Zenitsu was completely captivated by Kyujou Hattori's perfect, tall figure and her alluring long legs. Staring intently at Kyujou Hattori's stunning form, Zenitsu's nose started bleeding profusely and uncontrollably. Seeing Zenitsu's reaction, Kachi immediately slapped himself in the face, shaking his head and regretting having greeted Zenitsu. 315, Chapter 315. Kachi now understood why Ryaji hadn't placed Kyujou Hattori in the same unit as Zenitsu. While Kyujou Hattori was exceptionally beautiful, Zenitsu's reaction was excessive. How desperate could someone be to react so intensely to a stranger? Before Kachi could react, Zenitsu was already in front of Kyujao Hattori, throwing himself at her and grabbing her long legs. Because Kyujao Hattori wore a modified uniform, she'd shortened the trousers into a skirt. Zenitsu lost his composure. While Kyujao Hattori, like Mitsurai Kanroji, wore a short skirt, their styles and auras differed greatly. Mitsurai Kanroji had a fuller figure and a sweet, innocent look that evoked protectiveness. Kyujao Hattori, due to her height, had a more balanced physique. However, Mitsurai Kanroji still had a larger bust and hips. Kyujao Hattori's aloof demeanor and personality gave off a cool, distant vibe, which might deter many men. Zenitsu shamelessly declared, "Beautiful woman. What's your name?" "I'm Zenitsu Agatsuma. I saw you across a crowded room, and I fell in love. Will you marry me? I'll treat you well. I'm very faithful to women." Only an ardent admirer like Zenitsu would propose marriage to a beautiful woman upon first meeting. Kyujao Hattori finally understood why Ryaji hadn't assigned her to the first unit. This is the lovesick bachelor from the first unit. He's truly repulsive. Frowning, she swiftly drew her Nichiren blade, its red flame patterns blazing, and held it to Zenitsu's neck. "Let go. That's assault, and I have every right to kill you." Zenitsu froze, quickly releasing his grip and raising his hands in surrender. This was the first time he'd encountered someone who resorted to violence for a minor offense. His fear of Kyujao Hattori spiked. "Could you put down your sword? I didn't do anything. There's no need for violence. Team rules forbid harming each other. Don't you know that?" Zenitsu reminded her. Kyujao Hattori lowered her blade, saying calmly, "Ryaji Teiko called you a lovesick bachelor. Stay a meter away from me. I hate being harassed by men, especially lovesick ones like you." Zenitsu exclaimed, "Ryaji-senpai. You know Ryaji-senpai? Are you his new girlfriend? I'm furious. That food-hoarding Ryaji-senpai found a beautiful girlfriend while we were recovering. I'm going to tell Hinaki Yabayashiki. I'll expose your affair." Zenitsu stood up, intending to tell Ryaji's fiancée, Hinaki Yabayashiki, about their relationship. 316, Chapter 316. Kyujao Hattori didn't quite understand Zenitsu's words. Remembering Ryaji's warning from yesterday, that the members of the first unit weren't. Kyujao Hattori didn't quite understand Zenitsu's words. Remembering Ryaji's warning from yesterday, that the members of the first unit weren't normal, she had to admit he was right. They were indeed unusual. As Zenitsu turned around, he bumped into Ryaji, who had arrived without being noticed. Ryaji's unwavering stance meant Zenitsu absorbed the impact, landing on his backside. Ryaji playfully teased the grounded Zenitsu, "Zenitsu, when will you stop trying to tattle on me?" Ryaji wasn't actually worried about Zenitsu reporting him to Amini Yabayashiki. Nothing had happened between him and Kyujao Hattori. Even if something had happened, it wouldn't matter. Monogamy wasn't the norm, so Ryaji could have multiple partners. Zenitsu, smiling to ease the awkwardness, replied, "Ryaji-senpai, when did you get here? You scared me." He knew Ryaji had heard his earlier complaint. "I just arrived, and you're already bumping into me," Ryaji said with a smile. He crouched down, placing a hand on Zenitsu's shoulder. "Zenitsu, if you like other girls, you'll lose Nezuko." Ryaji wasn't forcing Zenitsu to stay with Nezuko. If he chose someone else, he'd lose Nezuko. Zenitsu looked at Kyujao Hattori again. While beautiful, she wasn't cute. Zenitsu preferred smaller, cuter girls, like Nezuko, Shinobu, Kaneo, or Aoi Kenzaki. He could tolerate a queenly type, but remembering her drawing a sword when he touched her leg, he decided against it. Zenitsu firmly stated, "Ryaji-senpai, what are you talking about? I'd never like a she-devil like that. I only like one woman, Nezuko. You can deal with this she-devil." "You shameless single dog, who are you calling a she-devil?" Kyujao Hattori was furious at being called a she-devil. As a woman, she felt insulted. It was especially infuriating that Zenitsu had taken liberties with her and then insulted her. Zenitsu was startled by her anger, fearing she'd draw her sword again. He hid behind Ryaji, whispering, "Ryaji-senpai, where did you find this wildflower? She's too wild. How can you stand her?" Ignoring Zenitsu's nonsense, Ryaji warned, "Zenitsu, with that mouth, you're destined to remain single." Ryaji then briefly explained the situation with the second unit to Zenitsu, and introduced both Zenitsu and Kyujao Hattori to each other. 317, Chapter 317. After Ryaji's explanation, Zenitsu had a basic understanding of Kyujou Hattori and learned that Ryaji had secretly trained a special op-ratio. After Ryaji's explanation, Zenitsu had a basic understanding of Kyujou Hattori and learned that Ryaji had secretly trained a special operations unit, the Moon's Layers, while they were recovering. Zenitsu asked Ryaji with a sly smile, "Ryaji-senpai, so that means Kyujou-sen will be coming with us on this mission?" Ryaji responded with a knowing smile, "Zenitsu, you're still interested in her, huh? Should I assign you two to a team together?" Zenitsu immediately waved his hands in refusal, "No, no, no. I couldn't handle that. Let senpai handle that." At that moment, Tanjiro, fully prepared, arrived outside the butterfly mansion. Seeing the gathering, he realized everyone was waiting for him. He said to everyone, "Sorry to keep you waiting." Tanjiro then sized up Kyujou Hattori, Seikiro Sakata, and Kenta Inoue. He didn't recognize them, but their presence here clearly indicated they were also assigned to the Infinity Train mission. However, to Tanjiro's surprise, Shinichi and Kachi Murata were also present. Tanjiro turned to Ryaji and asked, "Ryaji-senpai, why are there other team members?" Ryaji gave Tanjiro a brief explanation of the Mundslayer's situation. Tanjiro was very pleased to hear this, as he enjoyed the company of others and was naturally happy to be going on a mission with so many people. Zenitsu leaned in close to Tanjiro and whispered, "Tanjiro, be careful. That red-haired girl is a real she-devil. She held a sword to my throat earlier." Intrigued, Tanjiro examined Kyujou Hattori again. He didn't sense any violent tendencies from her. Instead, she seemed to possess a strong sense of righteousness. It was rare to find such an aura in a woman. Of all the women Tanjiro had met, only Kyujou Hattori possessed this kind of resolute righteousness. Even Ryaji lacked this quality. Neo, Kyo, and Sumi then addressed Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk. "Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inashuk, you three should try to burst this giant gourd. It's a final test we prepared for you. There's a reward if you succeed." Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk didn't say anything and immediately began trying to burst the training's final giant gourd. They had only recently mastered total concentration, constant, and received the Infinity Train mission. They had attempted to burst this gourd before, but failed. Now, having mastered total concentration, constant, they wondered if the outcome would be different. Shinichi Murata curiously approached Ryaji and asked, "Ryaji-senpai, what are Tanjiro and the others doing?" Ryaji answered nonchalantly, "It's a small test to gauge their mastery of total concentration, constant." Neo, Kyo, and Sumi enthusiastically cheered on Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk. "Go, go, go." 318, Chapter 318. "Captain Ryaji, why wasn't I given that test?" Kyujou Hattori asked, a hint of confusion in her voice. Ryaji looked at her and replied, "Bika." "Captain Ryaji, why wasn't I given that test?" Kyujou Hattori asked, a hint of confusion in her voice. Ryaji looked at her and replied, "Because I didn't even know about this fun little test. If you're interested, you can try finding a gourd and doing it yourself sometime." Ryaji was genuinely unaware of the gourd-blowing test. He hadn't actively overseen Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk's training, only intervening when Tanjiro had hit a significant roadblock and sought his guidance. A series of sharp pops echoed as Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk successfully burst the three giant gourds. "Fantastic! They did it!" Neo, Kyo, and Sumi cheered, their joy palpable. "Here, we made you some sushi rolls to take with you. Please defeat many demons." Neo, Kyo, and Sumi presented small wooden baskets. Inashuk immediately grabbed a basket and eagerly opened it. Seeing the neatly arranged sushi rolls, he couldn't resist grabbing one and eating it. Zenitsu immediately stopped him. "Inashuk, now's not the time to eat. The sushi was intended to feed the entire team, not for Inashuk to devour alone." Inashuk shrugged, "It's early, I haven't had breakfast. Are we supposed to wait until noon to eat this?" Zenitsu, exasperated, snatched the basket from Inashuk, handing it to Ryaji. "Ryaji-senpai, please have the Mundslayer's second team share this." Ryaji, surprised by Zenitsu's thoughtful gesture, smiled and accepted the basket. "Well done, Zenitsu." He then passed the basket to Kyujou Hattori, instructing, "Share this with the second team. Eat up before we leave." After distributing the sushi, Kyujou Hattori noticed some remaining and returned the basket to Ryaji. "Captain Ryaji, there's some left, please share it with the first team." The sushi was quickly divided and eaten, solving their breakfast problem. At that moment, Jiyu Tomioka arrived. Shinichi Murata, a veteran demon slayer, recognized him immediately and bowed respectfully, "Tomioka-sama." The other members of the second team followed suit, bowing to Jiyu. Jiyu ignored Shinichi and approached Ryaji and Tanjiro. Upon seeing Jiyu, Inashuk excitedly shouted, "Hey, you're the guy who saved me on Natagyamo Mountain. Let's fight. I'm even stronger now. I can definitely beat you." 319, Chapter 319. Zenitsu immediately stopped Inashuk, scolding, "You idiot, stop making a fool of yourself." Although Zenitsu didn't know who Jiyu Tomioka was, Zenitsu immediately stopped Inashuk, scolding, "You idiot, stop making a fool of yourself." Although Zenitsu didn't know who Jiyu Tomioka was, he sensed that Tomioka's breathing and heartbeat were as powerful as Shinobu Koko's. Therefore, Zenitsu suspected that Tomioka was a Hashira, just like Shinobu. Ryaji was quite surprised by Jiyu's arrival. "What brings you here, Jiyu-san? I don't recall you being on the mission roster." Tanjiro greeted Jiyu respectfully, "Senpai Jiyu." On the second team's side, Kenta Inoue adjusted his glasses and curiously asked Shinichi Murata, "Shinichi, who is that person? Is he even stronger than Ryaji-senpai?" Kenta knew, from Shinichi's reaction to Jiyu, that Shinichi was aware of his identity. Shinichi replied in a low voice to the members of the second team, "I don't know for certain, but Tomioka-sama is the water Hashira of the Demon Slayer Corps. His strength is not to be underestimated. Show him the utmost respect whenever you meet him." Kenta Inoue exclaimed, "Ryaji-senpai's senior is a Hashira. No wonder Ryaji-senpai is so strong." Seikiro Sakata mused, stroking his chin, "Is Tomioka-sama also part of this mission? If so, this mission is clearly extremely dangerous." Jiyu Tomioka calmly addressed Ryaji, "This mission might involve an upper moon. Upper moons and lower moons are on completely different levels, you mustn't underestimate them." Jiyu wasn't actually part of the mission, he was only there to warn Ryaji not to underestimate the upper moons. Jiyu was concerned because Ryaji's progress had been too smooth. He feared that overconfidence in his own strength might lead to Ryaji's downfall. Ryaji understood Jiyu's meaning. Jiyu's words clearly showed his concern for Ryaji and Tanjiro's safety. Ryaji was surprised that the usually stoic Jiyu Tomioka would show such concern. Ryaji patted Jiyu on the shoulder and jokingly said, "I understand. None of us will die until you find a girlfriend. We're all looking forward to attending your wedding. Right, everyone?" Ryaji then turned to the others, seeking their agreement. Except for Kyujou Hattori, the men readily agreed, shouting in unison, "Yes." Jiyu Tomioka showed no reaction to Ryaji's teasing, simply staring at him with an impassive expression. Shinichi Murata chuckled, believing Ryaji was teasing Jiyu about being a perpetually single, straight-laced man. "Ryaji-senpai is too much. Making fun of Tomioka-sama's single life." Seikiro Sakata asked, "What are you laughing about, Shinichi?" Shinichi explained, "You don't know. The water Hashira, Tomioka-sama, is an incredibly strong but cold and unyielding straight man. Because of this, despite his strength, no woman likes him. Ryaji-senpai said that none of us will die until Tomioka-sama finds a girlfriend. Given Tomioka-sama's personality, that's never going to happen. In other words, even if we live to be 100, we'll never attend Tomioka-sama's wedding." 320, Chapter 320. While Ryaji's words implied the same sentiment, he didn't believe Jiyu Tomioka would remain a bachelor forever. He believed that the right W. While Ryaji's words implied the same sentiment, he didn't believe Jiyu Tomioka would remain a bachelor forever. He believed that the right woman would eventually melt even Jiyu's icy demeanor. Therefore, there was still a chance to attend Jiyu's wedding, although it might take 10 years or more. Seikiro Sakata quietly chimed in, "If I became a Hashira, I'd probably have women all around me." Jiyu Tomioka looked at Ryaji for a long moment before saying, "Then it's a deal." Tanjiro took the opportunity to say, "You have to work hard at it, Jiyu-senpai. Don't keep us waiting too long." A faint smile finally graced Jiyu's face. After bidding farewell to Jiyu and the three girls who had seen them off, Ryaji and his 8 companions set out for their mission. The presence of Kyujou Hattori, an attractive female team member, significantly boosted Zenitsu's spirits. While Zenitsu didn't dare to make any advances towards Kyujou Hattori, he frequently stole glances at her, finding it a great source of amusement. Kyujou Hattori was aware of Zenitsu's occasional leering glances but chose to ignore them. As twilight approached and the sun began to set, the group finally arrived at the train station closest to the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters. Ryaji went to the ticket office and purchased 9 tickets for the last train to Mugen train, the train where the disappearances had occurred. Boarding this train marked the beginning of their mission. He chose the last train because it departed after the sun had completely set, the ideal time for demons to be active. Upon receiving his ticket from Ryaji, Zenitsu teased, "Ryaji-senpai, I thought you were a country bumpkin like Tanjiro. I never expected you to know how to buy train tickets." Ryaji countered with a question, "Were you raised in a city, then?" Zenitsu clearly wanted to avoid that topic, urging, "Let's just get to the platform." The group immediately headed to the platform. The nearly 200 to 300 meter long platform was already crowded with people waiting to board the train, and a large, dark, old-fashioned train was parked on the tracks below. Seeing a train for the first time, Inashuk stopped before the locomotive, pointing at the black, old-fashioned train and shouting, "What kind of creature is this dark behemoth? Could it be the ruler of this land?" Zenitsu corrected him, "Idiot, that's a train. It's not a living thing." Seikiro Sakata carefully examined the nearly 100-meter-long locomotive and carriages, excitedly exclaiming, "That's a train. That's what the train is like in the stories from my village. I'm going to be someone who's ridden a train." Kenta Inoue pushed up his glasses and said, "There are train tracks near my village. I used to see trains pass by all the time when I was a kid." 321, Chapter 321. Having seen trains frequently as a child, Kenta Inoue wasn't particularly excited despite never having ridden one. Shinichi Murata, however. Having seen trains frequently as a child, Kenta Inoue wasn't particularly excited despite never having ridden one. Shinichi Murata, however, was filled with anticipation. "Shinichi, we're about to ride a train. I have no idea what it'll be like," he exclaimed excitedly to his younger brother. Shinichi Murata nodded, equally excited. Kyujou Hattori remained calm and composed, saying nothing, simply staying close to Ryaji. As a time traveler, Ryaji, while never having been on an old-fashioned steam train, had experienced modern airplanes, bullet trains, cars, and ships, so the sight of this old train didn't particularly impress him. It was only after hearing the others' discussion that Tanjiro learned that this dark, snake-like thing was called a train. Suddenly, as they waited on the platform, Inashuk yelled, "Charge!" and sprinted, headbutting the train carriage with full force. Bang! A loud clang echoed as Inashuk's impact dented the train's metal siding. The impact left Inashuk dizzy, nearly causing him to fall. He staggered, regained his balance, shook his head, and pointed at the train carriage. "I never thought it would be as hard as Tanjiro's head. Alright, let's have a proper fight." He grabbed the 2 Nichiren blades at his waist, ready to draw them. Zenitsu immediately rushed forward, grabbing Inashuk's arms, and scolded him, "You idiot. What are you doing? This is so embarrassing." Ryaji's attention shifted to Inashuk. He warned, "Inashuk, stop being foolish. Trains don't attack people." "Is that so? Could it be the Earth God protecting this land?" Inashuk inquired. Ryaji wasn't sure how to explain this to Inashuk, a country boy. "What are you doing? Those people have swords, they might be dangerous. There are too many of them. Call for backup." Inashuk's actions had attracted the attention of the station security guards. Zenitsu urgently warned Ryaji, "Ryaji-senpai, we need to run. Don't get caught, it'll be a huge problem." He immediately grabbed Tanjiro and Inashuk and ran. Ryaji quickly ordered his Moonslayer team, "Follow me." The 9 of them swiftly navigated the crowded platform. As skilled demon slayers with powerful breathing techniques, they easily outpaced the guards. They quickly climbed onto the platform's awning to hide. From below, the guards could be heard talking, "Where did those guys go? They ran this way, didn't they?" Ryaji whispered to the group, "Everyone down. Stay quiet." They all lay flat, silent. Darkness had already fallen, and as they lay on the awning, Ryaji noticed several beams of flashlight sweeping upwards. 322, Chapter 322. The guard searched the area where Ryaji and his companions had vanished for a considerable time before finally giving up and leaving. Thus, the guards searched the area where Ryaji and his companions had vanished for a considerable time before finally giving up and leaving. Those guys probably ran off somewhere else. Let's go check other places. The sound of their footsteps gradually faded, until they disappeared completely. After confirming that there was no one else nearby, Ryaji jumped down from the awning. The others followed one after another. As soon as Zenitsu landed, he pointed at Inashuk and complained, "Inashuk, it's all your fault. We're in this mess because of you. Apologize." Inashuk retorted, "Why should I apologize? Besides, why did we run when we saw the guards? We didn't do anything wrong." Zenitsu explained, somewhat exasperated, because the Demon Slayer Corps isn't officially recognized by the government. Carrying Nichiren blades around makes us easy targets for the guards. Even if we explain that we hunt demons, they won't believe us. Tanjiro, after hearing Zenitsu's explanation, grumbled, "We work so hard to slay demons, yet we have to hide like criminals." Ryaji responded calmly, "That's just the current situation. There's nothing to complain about." Zenitsu then suggested, "Ryaji-senpai is right. In any case, we should hide our swords." "Hahaha, better now." Inashuk, following Zenitsu's instructions, moved his two Nichiren blades from his waist to his back. He then turned his back to the group, striking a model-like pose with his hands on his hips. "You can't see them now, right?" Inashuk said smugly. Everyone looked at him with a mixture of disbelief and exasperation. Ryaji said with a headache, "Inashuk, you're the only one who can't see them." Zenitsu yelled, "It's perfectly obvious, you idiot." Tanjiro added, somewhat exasperated, "Inashuk, you need to put your shirt on." Kyujou Hattori confirmed Ryaji's earlier assessment. Captain Ryaji was right. Not a single member of the first unit is normal. Seikiro Sakata questioned incredulously, "I can't believe Captain Ryaji would let such a strange character join the Moonslayers." Kenta Inoue habitually pushed up his glasses and commented, "The method is quite clever, but it doesn't work for someone who isn't wearing a shirt." Shinichi and Kachi Murata were overcome with laughter at Inashuk's antics, their laughter echoing, "Hoo hoo hoo." At that moment, the train's powerful whistle blew. The last train to Mugen train was slowly starting to move along the tracks, gradually accelerating. Ryaji immediately addressed the group, "The train's leaving. We don't have much time. We need to catch this train. Everyone, let's go." With that, Ryaji leaped from the platform and ran towards the accelerating train. Kyujou Hattori followed without hesitation. Inashuk excitedly yelled, "Don't leave me behind, Earth God. I'll catch up," and ran after them. 323 Chapter 323 Ryaji, possessing the greatest speed and having been the first to start running, was the first to leap onto the last carriage of the train. Ryaji, possessing the greatest speed and having been the first to start running, was the first to leap onto the last carriage of the train, landing in the area used for passenger boarding and smoking. He immediately opened the door and, turning to look at the others still chasing the train, urged, "Hurry up." Kyujou Hattori was the second to reach the area where Ryaji was standing. Ryaji immediately told her, "Go inside the carriage first, leave space for the others." The area at the rear of the train, besides being used for boarding and smoking, also served as an open-air viewing platform. However, it was small at most, only 6 people of average build could fit comfortably. With 9 people in their group, it was impractical for everyone to squeeze into this space. Some would inevitably be left behind. Kyujou Hattori understood this and quickly entered the carriage. The rear carriage was quite empty, with only 7 or 8 people inside. Kyujou Hattori didn't immediately find a seat but continued to observe the situation outside. Meanwhile, the remaining 6 were desperately chasing the train. Tanjiro, the third to arrive, was pulled onto the train by Ryaji. Inashuk, followed by the Murata brothers, Shinichi and Kachi, then boarded. Zenitsu, lagging behind, shouted to Seikiro Sakata and Kenta Inoue who were ahead, "Wait for me. Why are you all running so fast?" Seikiro Sakata and Kenta Inoue were too preoccupied with catching the train to respond. They hadn't fully mastered total concentration, constant, and if they didn't control their breathing properly, they risked being left behind. The train had reached its maximum speed, and the distance between Zenitsu, Seikiro Sakata, Kenta Inoue, and the train was visibly increasing. Seeing this, Ryaji shouted to those still outside, "Everyone, get inside the carriage. Don't impede my actions." Tanjiro and the others quickly retreated into the carriage. Only Ryaji remained on the open-air platform. He activated his demonification, a dark purple mist enveloping him as his hands began to transform. Finally, Ryaji extended his hands and shot 3 thick, dark purple threads, resembling thick electrical cables, towards Zenitsu, Seikiro Sakata, and Kenta Inoue. The threads stuck to their clothing on their chests. Grab onto the threads. Ryaji didn't immediately pull them in. The threads were stuck to their clothing, which couldn't withstand a strong pull. If he used too much force, their clothes would tear. Zenitsu, Seikiro Sakata, and Kenta Inoue would fall if suddenly pulled, so Ryaji waited for them to securely grasp the threads before pulling them in. Zenitsu, Seikiro Sakata, and Kenta Inoue, facing Ryaji, were terrified by his demonified form, their faces showing clear fear. Only Tanjiro, Jiyu Tomioka, Shinobu Koko, Tamayo, and Yushiro had witnessed Ryaji's demonification before. He hadn't used it in front of anyone else. Zenitsu shouted, "Whoa! Senpai!" Ryaji turned into a monster. Instinctively, he grabbed the thread that Ryaji had shot out. 324, Chapter 324. Seikiro Sakata and Kenta Inoue, though slightly frightened by Ryaji's current appearance, immediately grabbed onto the threads he'd shot out. Seikiro Sakata and Kenta Inoue, though slightly frightened by Ryaji's current appearance, immediately grabbed onto the threads he'd shot out. Ryaji, seeing that all three had a firm grip, exerted immense force, pulling them sharply backward. The three were lifted into the air, propelled towards him. Ryaji moved swiftly aside, allowing Zenitsu, Seikiro Sakata, and Kenta Inoue to fly past him before landing, rather unceremoniously, inside the carriage. Seikiro Sakata was the first to hit the floor. Before he could recover, Kenta Inoue landed on top of him, followed by Zenitsu, who landed on top of Kenta Inoue. Thanks to the cushioning effect of the two men beneath him, Zenitsu was unharmed. However, Seikiro Sakata, who served as the unfortunate human cushion, nearly had the breath knocked out of him. "Get off! I'm going to die!" Seikiro Sakata managed to gasp out. Zenitsu quickly stood up, brushing himself off, and exclaimed, "We made it." After Zenitsu stood, Kenta Inoue slowly got up, adjusting his glasses. Seikiro Sakata turned over, letting out a long sigh of relief. He didn't immediately stand, still catching his breath. Tanjiro, ever kind, offered a hand to Seikiro Sakata, asking, "Are you all right, Seikiro?" Understanding Tanjiro's offer, Seikiro Sakata took his hand and used it to pull himself to his feet. "I'm fine, thank you," Seikiro Sakata said simply. Ryaji had already entered the carriage from the outdoor platform and closed the door. He had returned to his normal state, no longer in his demonified form. Seeing Ryaji enter, Zenitsu pointed at his back in alarm. "I saw Senpai Ryaji turn into a monster. It was terrifying." After closing the door, Ryaji turned to face everyone, calmly saying to Zenitsu, "A monster? You must have been hallucinating." Seeing that Ryaji was back to normal, Zenitsu was puzzled. He asked Seikiro Sakata and Kenta Inoue, "Seikiro, Kenta, you also saw Senpai Ryaji turn into a monster, right?" Seikiro Sakata and Kenta Inoue looked at Ryaji, now back to his normal self, unsure of what to say. They both shook their heads. Ryaji smiled faintly and teased Zenitsu, "It was dark, and you're a scaredy cat. Your fear probably made you see a monster." Ryaji knew that Seikiro Sakata and Kenta Inoue had seen his demonified form, but their denial led him to believe they were still unsure if what they saw was real or a hallucination. Because it was night, and Ryaji had been facing away from the carriage lights, Seikiro Sakata and Kenta Inoue couldn't be certain if what they saw was real. Only Tanjiro knew the truth, but seeing that Ryaji didn't want to reveal it, he remained silent. 325, Chapter 325. Due to Seikiro Sakata and Kenta Inoue's denials, and Ryaji's words, Zenitsu began to doubt whether he'd actually seen what he thought he saw. Due to Seikiro Sakata and Kenta Inoue's denials, and Ryaji's words, Zenitsu began to doubt whether he'd actually seen what he thought he saw. "Alright. Everyone will stay in a separate carriage and remain vigilant. Night is when demons are active, we can't be careless," Ryaji said, dispensing with further discussion and assigning positions. With 10 carriages on the train, Ryaji designated the last and ninth carriages, the least crowded, as one unit, to be guarded by Kachi Murata. Inashuk would guard the 8th carriage, Kenta Inoue the 7th, Zenitsu the 6th, Ryaji the 5th, Siakairo Sakata the 4th, Tanjiro the 3rd, Shinichi Murata the 2nd, and Kyujao Hattori the 1st. Ryaji positioned himself in the middle carriage to provide support to both ends. The weaker team members, those who hadn't mastered total concentration, constant, were placed between him and Tanjiro, ensuring they could receive immediate support if needed. However, while assigning positions, Ryaji and his group encountered Kyojuro Rengoku in the 5th carriage. This surprised Ryaji. He'd expected to meet Rengoku only upon reaching Mugen train. Apparently, Rengoku was also investigating the disappearances on the train. After seeing Rengoku, Tanjiro asked Ryaji, "Ryaji-senpai, I have something I want to ask Rengoku-san. Could I share a carriage with him?" Ryaji didn't ask any questions and simply switched carriages with Tanjiro. With Rengoku present, Ryaji had nothing to worry about. Rengoku's choice of the 5th carriage likely stemmed from its strategic location being in the middle, allowed for effective response to events at either end of the train. After Ryaji and the others left, Tanjiro approached Rengoku. "Rengoku-san, may I sit next to you?" Rengoku replied politely, without any airs of superiority, "Please, you are a passenger as well." Seeing that Rengoku was approachable, Tanjiro sat down in the empty seat beside him and continued, "Rengoku-san, I have something I'd like to ask you. Would you be willing to answer it?" The question concerned the Hinokamai Kagura breathing technique, which Tanjiro had previously asked Ryaji about. However, Ryaji, unfamiliar with information beyond his own knowledge, hadn't given a definitive answer, only offering his own deductions. Ryaji suspected that Hinokamai Kagura might be a simplified version of an existing breathing style or a prototype of an entirely new style, independent of the 5 basic breathing techniques. After all, Ryaji didn't know much about the history of breathing techniques. He was only truly familiar with water breathing and wood breathing, with wood breathing being independent of the 5 basic styles. Therefore, Tanjiro's Hinokamai Kagura might be similar to wood breathing. 326, Chapter 326. "I'm eager to hear," Kyojuro Rengoku replied with interest. Tanjiro then recounted the events of the Spider Mountain arc and explained the "I'm eager to hear," Kyojuro Rengoku replied with interest. Tanjiro then recounted the events of the Spider Mountain arc and explained the Hinokamai Kagura breathing technique in detail to Kyojuro Rengoku. After listening to Tanjiro's explanation, Kyojuro Rengoku looked puzzled and said, "This Hinokamai Kagura breathing technique is something I've never heard of before. However, it certainly has nothing to do with flame breathing, so that's all I can say on the matter." Tanjiro was surprised by Kyojuro Rengoku's simple response. Is that all you know?" Tanjiro asked, somewhat disappointed. Flame breathing has a long and storied history, and the only branch recorded is love breathing. The Hinokamai Kagura breathing technique you mentioned has nothing in common with flame breathing. Regardless of the era, there will always be sword users who master flame and water breathing and become Hashira. Flame, water, wind, rock, and thunder are the 5 most common breathing styles used by the most swordsmen. The breathing styles used by the snake Hashira, insect Hashira, love Hashira, sound Hashira, and mist Hashira are all branches of these 5 main styles. However, the Hinokamai Kagura you mentioned isn't among these branches, nor is there any record of it in any existing texts. Seeing Tanjiro's continued questioning, Kyojuro Rengoku explained some basic knowledge about breathing techniques. Since Kyojuro Rengoku couldn't explain the origins of the Hinokamai Kagura breathing technique either, Tanjiro temporarily abandoned that line of inquiry and changed the subject, asking, then, "Kyojuro Rengoku-san, do you know what a black Nichiren blade represents?" Kyojuro Rengoku looked at Tanjiro, surprised, and asked, "Tanjiro, is your Nichiren blade black?" Tanjiro nodded, admitting, "Yes. Even my master didn't know why my Nichiren blade is black." "That's true. You're Jiyu's junior, and you use water breathing. Logically, your Nichiren blade should be blue, like Jiyu's. The color of a Nichiren blade corresponds to its breathing style. Flame, water, wind, thunder, and rock breathing correspond to red, blue, green, yellow, and gray, respectively. Breathing styles outside the 5 main branches also have different corresponding colors. Perhaps it's because you've learned both Hinokamai Kagura and water breathing, resulting in your Nichiren blade being neither red nor blue. Kyojuro Rengoku offered his analysis based on his understanding. Tanjiro, imagine this: what happens when you plunge a red-hot blade into water? Kyojuro Rengoku asked, giving an example. After thinking for a moment, Tanjiro replied, the water will boil. However, Tanjiro missed the key point. Kyojuro Rengoku shook his head, you missed the point. A red-hot blade, when quenched in water, turns black. You inherited Hinokamai Kagura from your father, like a blade gradually being heated to red-hot. Then, you learned water breathing under the tutelage of Seikanji Urokadake, which is like plunging that red-hot blade into water. That might explain why your Nichiren blade is black. 327, Chapter 327. After hearing Kyojuro Rengoku's explanation, Tanjiro felt invigorated, marveling at how he hadn't thought of that himself. Kyojuro Rengoku's. After hearing Kyojuro Rengoku's explanation, Tanjiro felt invigorated, marveling at how he hadn't thought of that himself. Kyojuro Rengoku's explanation made perfect sense on some level. How could I have missed that? Thank you, Kyojuro Rengoku-san. Tanjiro exclaimed excitedly. However, Kyojuro Rengoku then made an unexpected request: you have a kind heart and considerable talent. Would you consider becoming my adopted son? You could eventually become my successor. Tanjiro was clearly taken aback. He hadn't expected Kyojuro Rengoku to take an interest in him. Instead of immediately agreeing, Tanjiro asked, somewhat puzzled, Kyojuro Rengoku-san, aren't adopted sons of Hashira usually chosen from those who use the same breathing style? I use water breathing. If I were to inherit a position, it would be Senpai Jiyu's. Kyojuro Rengoku burst into laughter. While that's generally true, it's not an absolute rule. Anyone with exceptional talent can become a Hashira's successor. Of course, there can only be one water Hashira. If you become my adopted son, you couldn't take that title. And since you don't use flame breathing, you can't inherit the flame Hashira title either. But you could call yourself the fire Hashira, or even the black Hashira. Kyojuro Rengoku pondered Tanjiro's future title, already treating him as his adopted son. I believe that since you can use Hinokamai Kagura in battle, there's potential to further develop it. If you become my adopted son, I can help you develop and research Hinokamai Kagura. Throughout history, no one has ever mastered and utilized two different breathing styles. Once a person masters a breathing style, their body becomes unable to adapt to or accept another. Therefore, no demon slayer has ever used two different breathing styles. Kyojuro Rengoku explained his reasons for wanting to adopt Tanjiro. Tanjiro thought of Ryaji. When Ryaji treated Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inashuk in the Wisteria family estate, Tanjiro sensed that Ryaji seemed to use a different breathing style he didn't recognize. While Ryaji didn't explain, Tanjiro knew it wasn't water breathing. Of course, Tanjiro didn't mention this. If his father's Hinokamai Kagura was indeed a unique breathing style, then Tanjiro himself also mastered two different breathing styles. If he could do it, then it wasn't surprising that Ryaji, a prodigy, could also master two breathing styles. Is there really no record of a demon slayer mastering two breathing styles? Tanjiro asked again. No. So, what do you think? Will you become my adopted son? Kyojuro Rengoku asked. If it's alright with you, I would be honored, Tanjiro replied. Just as they were talking, a loud crash came from the train's ceiling. 328, Chapter 328. Boom. A loud crash echoed as a large dent appeared in the ceiling of the carriage where Tanjiro and Kyojuro Rengoku were seated. Something. Boom. A loud crash echoed as a large dent appeared in the ceiling of the carriage where Tanjiro and Kyojuro Rengoku were seated. Something heavy had apparently fallen onto the roof. Tanjiro and Kyojuro Rengoku both looked up at the damaged section of the ceiling with heightened alertness. The passengers in the carriage were startled by the sudden noise and cried out in alarm. All eyes turned to the damaged ceiling. Then, a series of rustling sounds came from the ceiling, as if something, and quite a few of them, were moving around up there. What happened? What's up there? This is terrifying. Wah wah, mama. The carriage descended into chaos, a mixture of adult cries of alarm and confusion, and children's wails. Kyojuro Rengoku stood up, placing his hand on his Nichiren blade. The rats have finally shown themselves. Tanjiro, prepare for battle. Tanjiro's keen sense of smell detected a strong demonic presence on the ceiling. His brow furrowed. There are so many of them. Kyojuro Rengoku shouted to the terrified passengers, "Everyone, don't be afraid. Put your heads down, crouch, and stay away from the windows." As soon as Kyojuro Rengoku finished speaking, the sound of shattering glass rang out. A passenger sitting by the window was grabbed by a large, thick hand and pulled outside. The speed was incredible. In the blink of an eye, the innocent passenger was snatched away by a demon lurking outside the carriage. Damn it! Kyojuro Rengoku gritted his teeth. In the confined space of the carriage, he was powerless to stop it. A horrific scream came from outside, followed by the sound of blood dripping near the window. This scene sent the passengers into a panic. Everyone tried to escape the carriage. However, their carriage wasn't the only one under attack. Similar events were unfolding in other carriages. The passengers in every carriage were in disarray, pushing and shoving, blocking the doorways connecting the carriages. Kyojuro Rengoku's voice boomed, his face grim, "If you don't want to die, get down and cover your heads." Kyojuro Rengoku's powerful shout restored a semblance of order in the fifth carriage. Everyone obeyed, crouching down with their heads covered. Several more shattering sounds followed, and several grotesque demons tumbled into the carriage. Kyojuro Rengoku leaped to his feet, standing on the back of a seat, his body moving with impossible speed towards the demons. "For your crimes, you vile creatures, prepare to die. Flame breathing, first form, unknowing fire." As Kyojuro Rengoku unleashed flame breathing, first form, unknowing fire, his body and blade moved in a dazzling, fiery five-pointed star, instantly decapitating the five demons. 329, Chapter 329. Tanjiro watched Kyojuro Rengoku instantly slay the five demons, a gasp escaping his lips. Even though he'd mastered total concentration, Tanjiro watched Kyojuro Rengoku instantly slay the five demons, a gasp escaping his lips. Even though he'd mastered total concentration, Tanjiro couldn't achieve that level of speed. At best, it would take him 5 seconds. Just then, a terrified Zenitsu ran from the sixth carriage into the fifth, calling for help. "Senpai Ryaji, help! So many demons have gotten into the carriage. It's terrifying." Zenitsu didn't know that Ryaji and Tanjiro had switched carriages, nor that Kyojuro Rengoku was in the fifth carriage. Tanjiro looked towards Zenitsu and saw that the sixth carriage was in utter chaos. That guy still hadn't overcome his cowardice. Despite his improved strength, he still couldn't bring himself to fight. Tanjiro was extremely displeased with Zenitsu's dereliction of duty. "Zenitsu, what are you doing? Get back to your carriage. Who's going to protect the passengers there?" Zenitsu, inherently timid, had never faced such a situation alone. One demon would have been bad enough, but 4 appearing at once was terrifying. He lacked confidence in his ability to handle 4 demons simultaneously. "Tanjiro, don't just stand there. There are 4 demons in my carriage." "4. You think it's calm over here?" Zenitsu held up 4 fingers, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. Kyojuro Rengoku stepped between Tanjiro and Zenitsu, saying, "This isn't the time for arguing. Let's deal with the immediate danger first." He then rushed towards Zenitsu's carriage. Zenitsu, who didn't recognize Kyojuro Rengoku, bombarded Tanjiro with questions. "Tanjiro, who is that guy? Why are you here? Where's Senpai Ryaji?" Tanjiro had no time for idle chatter. He followed Kyojuro Rengoku towards the sixth carriage. Zenitsu panicked when Tanjiro ran off without answering. "Hey, Tanjiro, don't leave me." As Zenitsu tried to follow, another grotesque demon climbed through a carriage window, blocking his path. Zenitsu shrieked, "Ah, another one." He instinctively backed away, bumping into something. He stopped, his eyes widening in horror as an incredibly long tongue dangled in front of him. Something was behind him. Zenitsu leaped forward, creating distance, and spun around. He was right. Another long-tongued demon was behind him. 330, Chapter 330. Zenitsu, frantically glancing at the 2 long-tongued demons flanking him, shamelessly declared, "Don't look at me. There are other people." Zenitsu, frantically glancing at the 2 long-tongued demons flanking him, shamelessly declared, "Don't look at me. There are other people in the carriage. Their flesh is tastier." Many of the terrified passengers huddled together, reacting with outrage to Zenitsu's brazen statement. "What did you say? Shameless yellow-haired brat. You little punk, you're gonna get yourself killed acting like that." The passengers unleashed a torrent of verbal abuse. If it weren't for the two long-tongued demons, the more irate men would have likely attacked Zenitsu. Zenitsu, annoyed by the criticism, retorted, "Shut up. If you keep making noise, I'm leaving you to your fate." Silence fell over the carriage. One of the long-tongued demons spoke, "Demon Slayer scum. Die." The two demons simultaneously attacked Zenitsu with their long tongues. Their tongues shot out like arrows, the tips unfolding like flower buds, revealing rows of sharp, tiny teeth. Zenitsu swiftly dropped to the ground, easily dodging the attack. The entire sequence happened incredibly fast. If Zenitsu hadn't mastered total concentration, enhancing his physical capabilities, he wouldn't have been able to dodge such a close-range attack. Though his evasive maneuver was somewhat undignified, he successfully avoided the attack. The two demons' tongues collided and became entangled, resembling a bizarre mating ritual in the animal kingdom. Zenitsu stood up, looking at the entangled demons with disgust. He teased, "Whoa, seriously? You two males don't need to show PDA in front of me. Are you two a couple? So demons are into that too, huh?" Zenitsu's chatterbox nature kicked in, and he continued talking incessantly. The two demons, their tongues intertwined, were momentarily incapacitated. Their attack involved using the flower-like structure at the tip of their tongues to tightly clamp onto a target's head, causing suffocation. Once entangled, ordinary humans had virtually no chance of survival. Even if the tongue was cut, it would remain firmly attached to the target's head. To remove it, the long-tongued demon itself had to be killed. After his teasing, realizing he couldn't waste the opportunity, Zenitsu drew his blade, charging at one of the demons, shouting, "Die, you gay demon." He swung his Nichiren blade, delivering several blows before finally severing the demon's neck. Just as Zenitsu was about to perform a dramatic sheathing of his blade, remembering the other demon, he changed his mind, "I almost forgot about the other one. Let's finish this with style." Thunder breathing, first form, thunderclap and flash. 331, Chapter 331. Zenitsu spun around, ducked, and assumed the stance for thunder breathing, first form, thunderclap and flash. In an instant, he transformed. Zenitsu spun around, ducked, and assumed the stance for thunder breathing, first form, thunderclap and flash. In an instant, he transformed into a yellow blur of lightning, appearing behind the other long-tongued demon. The next second, the demon's head fell to the ground, followed by its body, which quickly dissolved into ash. The passengers, relieved that the two monsters were defeated, breathed a collective sigh of relief. Zenitsu's performance had exceeded their expectations. A little girl, captivated by Zenitsu, stood up and declared, "Big brother is so amazing. I'm going to marry you when I grow up." Zenitsu looked at the girl, threw himself down before her, and excitedly exclaimed, "Really? You really want to marry me?" This was the first time a girl had confessed to him. Even though she was just a small child, it was enough to excite Zenitsu. Children don't lie, their feelings are genuine and trustworthy. "Yes." The little girl nodded. Zenitsu grinned like a love-struck fool, his expression rather lecherous. The girl's mother, seeing Zenitsu's goofy grin, quickly scooped up her child and said to Zenitsu with disdain, "Children say silly things. Don't take it so seriously." Zenitsu, not a fool, sought to defuse the awkward situation. "Did I take it seriously? I'm just happy a child likes me. What are you thinking, lady? You." The girl's mother, offended by being called lady, bristled, speechless for a moment. Zenitsu stood up, looking at his hands and the two slain demons, and silently wondered, "Have I really gotten stronger?" The situation in Ryaji's carriage, the third, was much simpler. Several demons had broken through the windows, but Ryaji swiftly eliminated them all using water breathing, 13th form, domain judgment. His current strength was at the Hashira level. These low-level demons were no match for him. After dealing with his carriage, Ryaji headed to the fourth carriage, where Suyakairo Sakata was. Suyakairo was relatively weaker, so Ryaji decided to check on him first. If he could handle it, Ryaji would leave him to it and then check on Shinichi Murata in the second carriage. Upon reaching the fourth carriage, he found Suyakairo engaged in a fierce battle with three demons. These weren't the long-tongued demons Zenitsu had encountered, but large, muscular demons. Clearly, these demons had focused their growth on strength and physical power. Suyakairo, not particularly strong, was struggling against three such powerful demons. 332, Chapter 332. Siakairo Sakata gripped his Nichiren blade, bracing against the heavy blows from the three muscle demons. Ryaji could see a slight tremor. Siakairo Sakata gripped his Nichiren blade, bracing against the heavy blows from the three muscle demons. Ryaji could see a slight tremor in Siakairo's arms, a sign of exhaustion. The passengers in Siakairo's carriage had already moved to safer carriages. Now, only Siakairo and Ryaji remained in the fourth carriage. Ryaji casually sat down in an empty seat and said to Siakairo, "Siakairo, are you alright? If you can't handle it, just say the word." Siakairo stubbornly gritted his teeth and replied, "I'm fine, Captain Ryaji. It's just that my techniques are too destructive, I might damage the carriage." As soon as he finished speaking, one of the muscle demons suddenly pulled back its fist, gathering power before unleashing another blow at Siakairo's Nichiren blade. Siakairo slid back 2 or 3 meters, finally regaining his balance only to spit out a mouthful of blood. Ryaji had witnessed sound breathing techniques, extremely destructive area of effect attacks. Sound breathing was one of the most destructive breathing forms. Using sound breathing techniques in the confined space of a train carriage was risky. Minor damage to the carriage was one thing, but it could potentially cause the carriages to detach. Therefore, Siakairo's inability to unleash his full power was understandable. Ryaji stood up, instantly appearing before the three muscle demons. He unleashed water breathing, fourth form, striking tide. Water breathing, fourth form, striking tide. Ryaji's Nichiren blade danced like a dragon emerging from the water. He executed 3 consecutive strikes with effortless grace, targeting the necks of the 3 muscle demons. The strikes were so fluid that Siakairo only saw a single, incredibly intricate and winding slash. The trajectory of the blade was like a dancing dragon, narrowly grazing the necks of the 3 muscle demons. The heads of the 3 muscle demons separated from their bodies, falling to the ground. After dispatching the demons, Ryaji sheathed his Nichiren blade and said to Siakairo, "Stay here. There might be more demons. I'm going to check on Shinichi." He then headed towards the second carriage. The passengers in all the carriages, though unaware of Ryaji's group's identity, understood that these young people with swords had saved them. When Ryaji arrived at the second carriage, Shinichi Murata had just beheaded the last demon. Ryaji asked, "All clear? Any casualties?" Shinichi Murata, finally coming out of his battle-focused state, nodded. "There were 2. Both dealt with. No casualties so far." Just then, Kyujou Hattori arrived from the first carriage. Her presence indicated that she had also dealt with the situation there. 333, Chapter 333. Kyujou, how was your situation? How many demons did you encounter? Were there any casualties? Ryaji immediately asked Kyujou Hattori. Kyujou, how was your situation? How many demons did you encounter? Were there any casualties? Ryaji immediately asked Kyujou Hattori. Kyujou Hattori replied formally, reporting, "Captain. 2 demons appeared, both have been eliminated. There were no casualties." "Alright, stay here and keep watch. I'll go check on the others," Ryaji instructed. "Yes, Captain Ryaji." "Yes, Senpai Ryaji." Kyujou Hattori and Shinichi Murata responded in unison. Ryaji then continued to other carriages. When he reached the 5th carriage, he found Zenitsu there. Upon seeing Ryaji, Zenitsu rushed towards him, saying, "Senpai Ryaji, it's so good to see you. My anxiety has finally subsided." Ryaji warned him, noticing Zenitsu rubbing his face against his chest. "Zenitsu, I warn you, don't wipe your snot on me." Zenitsu lifted his face, sniffed, and gave Ryaji an embarrassed smile. Ryaji could guess what had happened. Zenitsu, likely frightened by the sudden events, had come to the 5th carriage looking for him, only to find Tanjiro and Kyojuro Rengoku instead. They had likely gone to Zenitsu's carriage after dealing with their own. Let's go back to when the incident first occurred. Inashuk, guarding the 8th carriage, became excited upon hearing the commotion outside. "Here they come. They're here." He drew his 2 Nichiren blades, gripping the hilts with both hands. The already frightened passengers became even more terrified when they saw Inashuk draw his swords. Those near Inashuk quickly moved away. Some, overwhelmed by fear, even tripped and fell while creating distance. 3 shattering sounds followed, and 3 muscular demons tumbled through the windows. Seeing these muscular demons, Inashuk recalled the giant spider demon he'd encountered on Spider Mountain, a painful memory, as he had been defeated by it. While these demons weren't as huge as that spider demon, compared to ordinary humans, their musculature was exceptionally well developed. One of the three demons had disproportionately large arms. One arm was significantly larger than the other, resembling a gas canister. This arm was clearly specially enhanced. While the demon with the disproportionately large arm was hampered by its size, the other two were not. Inashuk's fighting spirit ignited, determined to avoid a repeat of his humiliation on Spider Mountain. This time, no matter how strong they are, I'll tear them apart. 334, Chapter 334. With a shout, Inashuk charged at the muscle demon with the disproportionate arm, immediately launching into his breathing technique. Beast. With a shout, Inashuk charged at the muscle demon with the disproportionate arm, immediately launching into his breathing technique. Beast breathing, second form, slash. Beast breathing, second form, slash was a technique devoid of finesse, a simple cross-slash attack that generated sharp sword energy. From 2 meters away, Inashuk leaped, using the downward force of the jump to enhance his attack. He pressed towards the demon. As he closed the distance, Inashuk swung his 2 Nichiren blades in a cross-shaped motion, aiming for the demon's neck. The demon, while seemingly slow-moving, reacted incredibly quickly. The moment Inashuk's blades descended, it raised its oversized arm, blocking the twin blade slash. The demon's arm was specially strengthened, so Inashuk's attack struck the arm, but the blade stopped short when they hit bone, failing to sever it. While Inashuk's attack was ineffective, the other 2 demons seized the opportunity, pouncing on him in a bear hug attempt. Though Inashuk's strength was inferior, his agility far surpassed theirs. He backflipped, landing on the shoulder of the demon with the oversized arm, causing the other demon to miss its attack. Already prepared for a counterattack, Inashuk performed a forward somersault from the demon's shoulder, circling behind the one that had missed, and launched a counteroffensive. Beast breathing, third form, explosive rush, pierce and devour. Beast breathing, third form, explosive rush, pierce and devour was another straightforward technique, a simple cross-slash with both blades. Combined with the saw-like serrations on Inashuk's Nichiren blades, it created a significant tearing effect. The third form, devour, struck the demon's neck, the unique serrations effectively severing it completely. Inashuk landed, using a half-squat to absorb the impact, his arms outstretched in his attack stance. Before he could fully regain his footing, another demon's fist smashed into his forehead, sending him flying. Inashuk's boar head mask was knocked off, and he landed amongst the passengers. The passengers, startled by his sudden arrival, quickly moved away, giving Inashuk some space. Fortunately, Inashuk had undergone special head training following Tanjiro's headbutt incident, otherwise, that blow would have been far more serious. Without his boar head mask, Inashuk lay on the carriage floor, a triumphant grin on his face, blood trickling from his nose. 335, Chapter 335. Seeing Inashuk still laughing, the passengers feared he'd been knocked senseless. The force of that punch had been terrifying. They consider. Seeing Inashuk still laughing, the passengers feared he'd been knocked senseless. The force of that punch had been terrifying. They considered it incredibly lucky he hadn't been killed outright, though the possibility of brain damage remained. Inashuk shook his head, stood up, wiped the blood from his nose, and declared, "My head's been specially trained. That kind of force doesn't affect me." Ignoring the demon with the oversized arm, he charged at the one that had just attacked him. The demon with the oversized arm gathered power and unleashed a punch. Although it missed, the powerful shockwave still hit Inashuk. Inashuk hadn't anticipated such explosive power. The punch generated a shockwave capable of inflicting damage even without direct contact. The shockwave forced him back. After regaining his balance, he charged again. Seeing Inashuk's renewed attack, the demon with the oversized arm repeated its tactic, trying to wear him down. Dodging attacks in the cramped carriage was difficult due to the limited space. In a more open area, the situation would be different. These demons, relying solely on brute force, were nothing more than easy targets for a skilled demon slayer. However, Inashuk, now aware of the shockwave generated by the oversized arm, had a countermeasure. As the demon unleashed another punch, Inashuk dropped to his knees, then lay back, sliding under the shockwave. The shockwave, having missed Inashuk, continued forward, pushing several passengers towards the rear of the carriage. The shockwave's power was significantly reduced due to the increased distance, preventing fatalities. Inashuk's fighting style was such that he couldn't be bothered with the passengers. Once in battle, demons were his sole focus. Sliding under the shockwave, Inashuk used his legs to spring back to his feet. He performed a backflip, landing behind the demon with the oversized arm. The demon, still in its punching stance, its arm's power not fully released, was unable to react to Inashuk's flanking maneuver. Instead of attacking immediately, Inashuk used his legs to push off the demon's back, dodging a punch from the other demon. 336, Chapter 336. Inashuk, having already been caught off guard once, knew the other muscle demon was keenly watching his movements. Therefore, he didn't him. Inashuk, having already been caught off guard once, knew the other muscle demon was keenly watching his movements. Therefore, he didn't immediately attack the one with the oversized arm. With 2 consecutive backflips, Inashuk successfully circled behind the demon again. This time, he launched a counterattack. Spinning in midair, he used beast breathing, third form, Fang Tir, targeting the demon's neck. The demon's neck was cleanly severed. Inashuk didn't stop. Landing, he leaped again. As the demon with the oversized arm turned to defend, it found Inashuk was no longer behind it. Inashuk was already airborne. As the demon turned again, Inashuk, having once more successfully circled behind it, swung his 2 Nichiren blades at its neck. Beast breathing, third form, explosive rush, pierce and devour. This demon's neck was also successfully severed. After the fight, Inashuk put his fallen boar head mask back on. He had barely secured it when Tanjiro and Kyojuro Rengoku appeared in the carriage. Seeing the 3 disintegrating demon corpses on the floor, they knew Inashuk had single-handedly dealt with the 3 demons that had attacked the carriage. "Inashuk, are you all right?" Tanjiro asked. "Ha, fine. Just some punks, took care of them in a flash," Inashuk declared, striking a triumphant pose and laughing. "That's good. Kyojuro Rengoku-san, let's check the remaining 2 carriages. Shinji is guarding the last 2, and we don't know what the situation is there," Tanjiro said, turning to Kyojuro Rengoku. "I'm in." Inashuk enthusiastically volunteered, eager to continue the hunt. For a combative demon slayer like Inashuk, the prospect of more demons to hunt was irresistible. Immediately, Tanjiro, Kyojuro Rengoku, and Inashuk headed towards the last 2 carriages. Shinji Murata, guarding the last 2 carriages, was considerably luckier. Perhaps due to fewer passengers, his carriages hadn't been attacked. Although he'd noticed the commotion in Inashuk's carriage, he hadn't immediately gone to assist. Shinji Murata wasn't certain that leaving his post wouldn't leave his carriages vulnerable to attack. If he'd been exploited because of this, he would have been to blame. After joining Shinichi Murata, Tanjiro, Kyojuro Rengoku, and Inashuk briefly inquired about the situation. Shinji Murata explained, and Inashuk was somewhat disappointed to learn that no demons had invaded those carriages. As they were talking, Ryaji and Zenitsu arrived. Tanjiro, relieved to see Ryaji, excitedly asked, "Senpai Ryaji, how was your situation?" "Everything's taken care of. No casualties," Ryaji replied, giving a concise report. 337, Chapter 337. Afterwards, Ryaji climbed out of the carriage window and onto the exterior. After a thorough check of the area to confirm it was safe, Afterwards, Ryaji climbed out of the carriage window and onto the exterior. After a thorough check of the area to confirm it was safe, he gathered everyone into the less crowded last carriage. The crisis averted, the train attendants began to calm the passengers and restore order. Each person briefly described their experiences. After counting, they discovered a startling total of 28 demons had attacked the train. So many demons attacking this train at once is extremely unusual. Kenta Inoue remarked, pushing his glasses up his nose. This was a point of considerable concern for everyone. Demons were not known for coordinated group actions. This large-scale attack was highly abnormal. "Perhaps these demons were used to deplete our fighting strength," Ryaji suggested. Ryaji-san is correct. With this many demons, there must be someone orchestrating this. The real mastermind hasn't revealed themselves yet. Kyojuro Rengoku added, building on Ryaji's statement. "Is it a member of the 12 Kazuki?" Siakairo Sakata asked, his interest piqued. He hadn't encountered any of the 12 Kazuki during the Natagyumo mountain arc, and he was eager to face one. Kyojuro Rengoku nodded, reminding everyone, therefore, we cannot afford to relax our vigilance. Bring it on. All of you. You'll all die by my blade. Inashuk declared, his fighting spirit undimmed. Tanjiro's expression grew serious upon hearing that a member of the 12 Kazuki might still be present. He had personal experience with the strength of lower rank 5 and was well aware of the 12 Kazuki's power. Zenitsu, hearing that more demons might appear, felt a surge of apprehension. Senpai Ryaji, Rengoku-sama, should we continue guarding one carriage each? Shinichi Murata asked the team's 2 leaders. Kyojuro Rengoku didn't answer, instead looking at Ryaji. Since Ryaji was currently in command, the decision rested with him. Not for now. If a member of the 12 Kazuki is still out there, being spread out is incredibly dangerous. It's best for everyone to stay together, Ryaji responded. Zenitsu's spirits lifted. Excellent. That means Senpai Ryaji can protect me at all times. Just then, a train attendant entered their carriage. Fellow passengers, we encountered a slight disturbance earlier, causing some panic. However, please do not fear, the situation has been resolved. Please feel free to continue your journey, the attendant announced to the passengers. The attendant then continued, now, if you would please cooperate by allowing me to check your tickets. Thank you. The attendant began checking everyone's tickets. After a short while, the attendant arrived at Ryaji's group with a smile. Gentlemen, and to the lovely lady, please present your tickets. 338, Chapter 338. Ryaji's group readily produced their tickets and presented them to the attendant for inspection. After verifying everyone's tickets, the ATT. Ryaji's group readily produced their tickets and presented them to the attendant for inspection. After verifying everyone's tickets, the attendant politely bid farewell and left the carriage. The atmosphere became much quieter, and many passengers gradually fell asleep. As time passed, Ryaji noticed several members of his group, including even Kyojuro Rengoku, the flame Hashira, had fallen asleep. Ryaji sensed something was wrong. Suddenly, an overwhelming wave of drowsiness washed over him. He immediately activated his Demon Slayer mark, instantly negating the effect. Having regained his composure, Ryaji quickly surveyed his surroundings. Tanjiro and the others were all asleep. He checked the adjacent carriages and found every passenger in a deep slumber, an extremely unusual situation. Just as Ryaji was about to return to Tanjiro's carriage, a demon, appeared before him. The demon was a male, dressed in an elegant suit, looking like a nobleman's son, but with the words lower rank on one eye and one on the other. Are you not human? Your appearance is even more frightening than a demon. Lower rank 1 remarked curiously, addressing Ryaji. Ryaji's appearance led lower rank 1 to believe he wasn't human, but his aura wasn't that of a demon either. The demon was unsure what kind of being Ryaji was, only that his appearance was unnervingly unsettling. Everyone else is lost in sweet dreams, why don't you join them? Don't you enjoy pleasant dreams? I can also grant you a nightmare. Actually, I love it when people enjoy sweet dreams before a nightmare descends. The expressions of fear and contortion on their faces are my favorite, I adore them beyond measure. Lower rank 1 continued. Listening to lower rank 1's effeminate tone, Ryaji suspected he might have been a flamboyant person in his past life. He spoke like a woman. Ryaji didn't bother with pleasantries. He lunged forward, delivering a swift strike that severed lower rank 1's neck. Ryaji hurried back to Tanjiro's carriage. Upon returning, lower rank 1 eerily emerged from the carriage floor. It was as if his body had grown from the floor itself. Seeing lower rank 1 reappear, Ryaji was puzzled. He had clearly severed the demon's neck, yet it was unharmed. Was he in a dream? Was that why he couldn't kill lower rank 1? If it were a dream, he should be able to create people or objects through imagination. Ryaji focused his mind, but nothing appeared. Ryaji concluded he wasn't dreaming. After all, he had activated his Demon Slayer mark, which negated all negative effects imposed upon him. 339, Chapter 339. Even assuming he was in a dream and had activated his Demon Slayer mark, if lower rank 1 could control the dream, Ryaji, as the dominant C. Even assuming he was in a dream and had activated his Demon Slayer mark, if lower rank 1 could control the dream, Ryaji, as the dominant consciousness in this mental landscape, should still be in control. You must be surprised. You severed my neck, yet I'm still alive. Let me tell you a secret, no matter how many times you cut my neck, I won't die. Lower rank 1 said with a taunting tone. Oh, so you're proud of that? Even so, can you kill me? Ryaji retorted sarcastically. Lower rank 1's smug smile froze. He immediately unleashed his blood demon art. Blood demon art, whispers of forced unconscious hypnosis. Lower rank 1 extended a hand, the back of which had a grotesque mouth growing on it. The mouth emitted strange sounds, like an incantation for the whispers of forced unconscious hypnosis. Seeing lower rank 1 use the blood demon art, whispers of forced unconscious hypnosis to put him to sleep, Ryaji further solidified his theory that he wasn't dreaming. The demon's invulnerability to decapitation must be due to something else. Lower rank 1 chanted the whispers of forced unconscious hypnosis for a long time, but Ryaji remained completely unaffected. Just as he had been against the telekinetic demon, he was immune to control and negative status effects. That's pathetic. Such a garbage blood demon art. How did you become lower rank 1? I think lower rank 4 is far stronger. Taking advantage of the demon slayer mark's overwhelming power, Ryaji continued to taunt lower rank 1. Indeed, this type of control-based blood demon art was utterly useless against Ryaji with his demon slayer mark activated. Ryaji shot a strand of spider silk at lower rank 1, pulling him close, and brutally tore off the hand with the mouth, completely incinerating the limb with his demon slayer power. Ryaji then grabbed lower rank 1's neck, ordering, "Wake everyone up on this train right now, or you'll die a gruesome death." He, this isn't my true form, you can't kill me. Lower rank 1 laughed, seemingly more excited by Ryaji's aggression and dominance. Ryaji finally understood why the demon was immune to decapitation. Our game ends here. Now, I'll devour everyone on this train. You can just wait to collect the bodies. Lower rank 1 said before dissolving into a pool of blood that seeped into the carriage floor. Tumors began to grow from the carriage seats, seemingly alive, slowly consuming the passengers. Ryaji guessed what was happening. Since lower rank 1 could reappear at will and threaten to devour everyone, it was likely he had established some kind of connection with the entire train. In other words, lower rank 1's body might have merged with the train itself was his body. 340, Chapter 340. This was evident from the tumors sprouting from the carriage seats. Ryaji knew he had to find a way to wake Tanjiro and the others he could. This was evident from the tumors sprouting from the carriage seats. Ryaji knew he had to find a way to wake Tanjiro and the others he couldn't handle the situation alone. Judging by the speed at which the tumors were consuming people, Ryaji could see that lower rank 1 couldn't devour everyone on the train instantly. However, Ryaji also knew he couldn't possibly protect every carriage by himself. To save everyone on the train, he had to wake Tanjiro and the others. Even waking just a couple would help him manage the situation. If Kyojuro Rengoku, the Flame Hashira, could wake up, that would be ideal. Ryaji deactivated his demon slayer mark and began using Breath of the Forest. He drew his Nichiren blade, pressing the tip into the wooden floor of the carriage, and unleashed forest infiltration. Breath of the Forest, first style, forest infiltration. With his Breath of the Forest at the ultimate level, his forest infiltration was incomparable to what it had been before. The amount of forest energy he generated was now 5 times greater. A faint green glow emanated from the green portion of his Nichiren blade's blade, and a substantial amount of forest energy steamed from his body and the blade itself. This forest energy, channeled through the Nichiren blade embedded in the floor, rapidly spread throughout the carriage. The tumors consuming people began to shrink, decay, and finally turn to ash at a visible rate, the same happening to the tumors on Tanjiro and the others. Having temporarily controlled the situation in this carriage, Ryaji turned to Nezuko, who was in her box made of Japanese cedar, and asked, "Nezuko, quickly come out and help me wake your brother." Nezuko, hearing Ryaji's call, immediately burst out of the box. She immediately began shaking Tanjiro. However, no matter how hard she shook him, he remained unresponsive. Suddenly, Nezuko headbutted Tanjiro's forehead. Her forehead broke open, and blood dripped onto Tanjiro's face. The next second, Tanjiro awoke with a start and looked around. "Tanjiro, wake up and go help in the other carriages. We're dealing with lower rank 1. He's merged with the train and is consuming everyone," Ryaji instructed urgently. Without asking questions, Tanjiro nodded firmly. Understood. He immediately rushed to the other carriages to begin rescuing people. Having escaped the dream, Tanjiro understood he'd been affected by the demon's blood demon art. But this wasn't the time to discuss it with Ryoji. Ryoji's urgent tone indicated the situation was dire. Nezuko, stay here and protect Zenitsu and the others. Try to wake them up, Ryoji instructed Nezuko. Nezuko nodded and began waking others using her own methods. Ryoji then rushed to the other carriages to begin the rescue effort. 341, Chapter 341. Tanjiro, you take the rear carriages, I'll handle the front. And watch out for lower rank one's blood demon art, it puts people to sleep. Tanjiro, you take the rear carriages, I'll handle the front. And watch out for lower rank one's blood demon art, it puts people to sleep, Ryoji warned Tanjiro as he passed through his carriage, where Tanjiro was busy hacking away at the tumors. Ryoji immediately continued towards the front of the train. While Ryoji and Tanjiro were rescuing passengers, Kyojuro Rengoku and Inashuk also awoke from the blood demon art's effects. Upon waking and finding Ryoji and Tanjiro gone, Kyojuro Rengoku realized they must be dealing with an emergency. He couldn't help but berate himself, to fall asleep during such a crisis. Unbelievable. I'm unworthy of the title of Flame Hashira. I want to disappear. Inashuk, I'll handle rescuing people. Your task is to find the demon's main body on the train and kill it. Kyojuro Rengoku immediately instructed Inashuk. I know what to do, don't need to tell me. Seriously. Inashuk grumbled, annoyed at being ordered around. Inashuk climbed onto the train's roof through a window and, in the open space on top, activated his spatial awareness. Beast breathing, 7th form, spatial awareness. Inashuk crouched on one knee, hands outstretched, activating his senses. His perception worked like radar, quickly scanning each carriage, finally detecting a suspicious life sign in the locomotive. Found it. Inashuk exclaimed, jumping up and running towards the front of the train. Nezuko, stay here and look after everyone else. Kyojuro Rengoku instructed Nezuko, who was waking the other team members, showing his trust and recognition of her abilities. With a sudden burst of speed, Kyojuro Rengoku shot forward like a bullet, leaving a circular shockwave from the air explosion in his wake. The carriage shook violently, and in the blink of an eye, he vanished from the 10th carriage. Looking down the carriage aisle, a long trail of fire was burning on the floor. The flames slowly extinguished from where Kyojuro Rengoku had disappeared. Tanjiro had reached the 7th carriage when Kyojuro Rengoku suddenly appeared before him. Tanjiro, the demon has merged with the train. Go with Inashuk and find the demon's main body. I'll handle rescuing people. Rengoku-san, is Inashuk awake? Where is he now? Tanjiro asked, relieved to hear Inashuk had also awakened. With Ryoji and Kyojuro Rengoku present, the passengers were much safer. However, Tanjiro was surprised to learn the demon had merged with the train. It explained why the entire train reeked of demon scent. Tanjiro, I'm on the roof. But I ain't waiting for you. Inashuk's voice and running footsteps echoed from the train's roof. 342, Chapter 342. Noticing the commotion on the roof, Tanjiro told Kyojuro Rengoku, then I'll leave the rescue to you, Rengoku-san. With that, Tanjiro flip. Noticing the commotion on the roof, Tanjiro told Kyojuro Rengoku, then I'll leave the rescue to you, Rengoku-san. With that, Tanjiro flipped out of the carriage window onto the roof, where he saw Inashuk running against the strong wind. Inashuk, wait for me. Tanjiro shouted as he gave chase. Catching up, Tanjiro asked, Inashuk, have you found the demon's main body? Inashuk replied smugly, of course. I told you, I'm better than you. Inashuk believed he was superior to Tanjiro in every aspect. Hearing Tanjiro's question, he assumed Tanjiro hadn't found the demon's main body, thus proving his own superiority. This was the source of his smugness. The entire train was filled with a strong demon scent, making it difficult for Tanjiro to pinpoint the demon's location. He needed to compare the scent differences in each carriage to make an accurate judgment. The moving train, and the rapidly flowing air within the carriages at high speed, also affected Tanjiro's sense of smell. Inashuk's spatial awareness, however, wasn't affected by air currents. Unless the space was extremely complex, his spatial awareness worked exceptionally well. It's up ahead. The front of this, god of the earth, is its weak point. Just destroy it. Inashuk said. Is it in the locomotive? Tanjiro wondered, considering the locomotive was inaccessible to most people, only the train driver would be there. Tanjiro and Inashuk immediately moved from the roof to the locomotive's combustion chamber. The entrance was sealed by a mass of tumors. "This is it, it's highly suspicious inside," Inashuk said to Tanjiro. Standing outside the combustion chamber, Tanjiro sensed an even stronger demon scent than at the rear of the train. The fact that the chamber was sealed by tumors was also highly suspicious. The tumors, seemingly alive, transformed into countless demonic hands the moment Tanjiro and Inashuk appeared, reaching for them. Tanjiro and Inashuk swung their blades, cutting down the approaching demonic hands. Water breathing, first form, modified, water surface slash. Faced with the dense swarm of demonic hands, Tanjiro used the modified first form taught to him by Ryaji. This was Tanjiro's first time using it in combat. The sheer number of demonic hands reminded him of the hand demon from Mount Fujikazan. Ryaji had used the modified first form, water surface slash, against the hand demon's hands. Therefore, Tanjiro emulated Ryaji's technique. Tanjiro unleashed 12 strikes in a second, 24 in 2 seconds. With Inashuk's support, they quickly cleared away the demonic hands. "Inashuk, break down the door," Tanjiro instructed. 343, Chapter 343. "Don't order me around. I know what to do," Inashuk retorted irritably. With that, he delivered a powerful downward strike to the combustion. "Don't order me around. I know what to do," Inashuk retorted irritably. With that, he delivered a powerful downward strike to the combustion chamber's outer door. Beast breathing, second form, rip and tear. A cross-shaped wave of sword energy shattered the door. Tanjiro and Inashuk saw the train's fireman, responsible for adding coal, staring at them in terror. Tanjiro, assuming the fireman was an innocent bystander trapped inside, shouted, "Get out. It's dangerous in there." As the fireman panicked, lower rank one's voice echoed in his mind, "Stab them in the back. It has to be a surprise attack. Then I'll make you one of us, a being that transcends humanity, immortal." Influenced by lower rank one, the fireman fled the combustion chamber and hid behind Tanjiro and Inashuk. "Are you all right?" Tanjiro asked the fireman. The fireman frantically shook his head, seemingly too terrified to speak. "Tanjiro, ignore him. Let's go inside and raid this giant bug's nest," Inashuk urged, showing no interest in the fireman. Inashuk entered the combustion chamber first. The walls were covered in tumors, creating a chilling atmosphere of fear and oppression. Could this be the thing's mouth? Inashuk muttered to himself. Meanwhile, Tanjiro told the fireman, "Go hide in another carriage. Leave this to us." Tanjiro then entered the combustion chamber. The fireman's panicked expression turned sinister and terrifying. He crept towards Tanjiro, clutching a small knife he'd been carrying. When he was half a meter from Tanjiro, the fireman plunged the knife into Tanjiro's back. Tanjiro's heightened senses had warned him of the approaching danger. He turned around, his hand reaching for his sword, momentarily freezing upon seeing the fireman. This hesitation allowed the fireman's knife to pierce Tanjiro's abdomen. The fireman, consumed by murderous intent, attempted to strike again. But Tanjiro didn't give him the chance. As the fireman tried to withdraw his knife, Tanjiro grabbed his hand. Tanjiro's grip was far stronger than the fireman's. The fireman cried out in pain, "Ah! Let go! Why did you hurt me?" Tanjiro demanded angrily. "Because I don't want to be human anymore. I want to transcend humanity, to be immortal," the fireman replied maniacally, his eyes wild with obsession. 344, Chapter 344. Hearing the fireman's words, Tanjiro realized he'd been manipulated by the demon and felt a surge of pity. "Tanjiro, are you all right? Let him." Hearing the fireman's words, Tanjiro realized he'd been manipulated by the demon and felt a surge of pity. "Tanjiro, are you all right? Let me kill this guy." Inashuk noticed the sudden turn of events, saw Tanjiro stabbed, and prepared to kill the fireman. "Wait, Inashuk. He's innocent. Don't hurt him." Tanjiro stopped him. "Why?" Inashuk couldn't understand Tanjiro's reasoning. In his mind, anyone who threatened his life was fair game. He's been manipulated by the demon. Once we defeat the demon's main body, he'll regain his senses, Tanjiro explained. Tanjiro swiftly knocked the fireman unconscious with a hand strike, pulled the knife from his abdomen, and tossed it into the burning furnace. The furnace was filled with glowing coals. Tanjiro didn't want to risk the fireman getting up and interfering, so he didn't just drop the knife on the floor. "Inashuk, no more delays. I can clearly smell the main body under the floor. Let's break it open. Tanjiro urged. Inashuk replied, got it. If I wasn't worried about you, I would have already dealt with this iron centipede. Tanjiro didn't argue, focusing on regulating his breathing. The stab wound, however slight, still affected him. Beast breathing, second form, rip and tear. Inashuk swung his Nichiren blade, striking the floor of the combustion chamber. Bang! A shattering sound echoed, accompanied by the clang of metal. A large cross-shaped hole appeared in the floor, revealing a massive bone resembling a spinal column. Tanjiro saw the weak point before him, lower rank 1's vital spot. Without hesitation, he launched a finishing blow. Water breathing, 8th form, waterfall basin. Tanjiro raised his Nichiren blade high and brought it down heavily on the exposed cervical vertebra. Almost instantly, numerous tumors sprouted from the vertebra, protecting the vital area. Tanjiro's blade only struck the tumors, causing no damage to the vertebra itself. The waterfall basin only created a large gash in the tumors, briefly exposing the vertebra for a second before the tumors healed. The tumors twisted and writhed, transforming into numerous hands that lunged at Tanjiro. Tanjiro swiftly cut down the approaching demonic hands and said to Inashuk, Inashuk, the demon's regeneration is too powerful. One person can't sever its neck. We need to coordinate our attacks. 345, Chapter 345. You break the flesh, I'll sever the cervical vertebra. Tanjiro explained their roles to Inashuk. Good idea. Since it's your idea, I'll GI. You break the flesh, I'll sever the cervical vertebra. Tanjiro explained their roles to Inashuk. Good idea. Since it's your idea, I'll give you a chance to shine. Inashuk replied, acting like a big brother. At that moment, the tumors began to grow rapidly, enveloping Tanjiro and Inashuk. Numerous eyeballs sprouted from the tumors, each bearing the words lower rank, and they were very close, only 2 fists away from Tanjiro and Inashuk. Blood Demon Art, Eyes of Forced Unconscious Sleep. Lower rank 1 unleashed his Blood Demon Art, attempting to trap Tanjiro and Inashuk in a dream and devour them. Seeing the eyes, Tanjiro remembered Ryaji's warning, but it was too late. He felt an irresistible wave of sleepiness. Inashuk, self-inflicted decapitation in the dream will wake you up. He warned Inashuk. Tanjiro immediately fell into the dream. In the dream, he was still in the combustion chamber, countless demonic hands reaching for him. He immediately chose self-decapitation, waking up instantly. He saw lower rank 1's eyes of forced unconscious sleep again and immediately fell asleep. In reality, a demonic hand reached for him. Tanjiro, having just woken up from the dream by self-decapitation, quickly cut off the hand. But upon making eye contact with the eyes of forced unconscious sleep, he felt another wave of sleepiness. Got hit again. When I wake up this time, I have to close my eyes immediately. I need to quickly decapitate myself to wake up. Tanjiro thought, placing his Nichiren blade to his neck, ready to self-decapitate again. However, lower rank 1 had only induced sleepiness, not actually putting him into a dream. Knowing Tanjiro could return to reality by committing suicide in the dream, lower rank 1 decided to use this against him, letting Tanjiro experience several dreams before giving him a false signal, making him believe he was dreaming again and thus end his own life. Just as Tanjiro brought the blade to his neck, Inashuk stopped him, shouting, "It's not a dream. This is real. How can you be even stupider than me? Don't fall for his trap. If you die like this, it'll be incredibly boring." Tanjiro was momentarily stunned, unsure if he was dreaming or not. As soon as Inashuk finished speaking, he swiftly cut off a demonic hand attempting to attack Tanjiro. Lower rank 1, seeing his plan thwarted by Inashuk, tried to kill Tanjiro while he was still disoriented. 346, Chapter 346. However, Inashuk thwarted lower rank 1's attempt to finish off Tanjiro. Inashuk remained unaffected by lower rank 1's demon dream eyes. However, Inashuk thwarted lower rank 1's attempt to finish off Tanjiro. Inashuk remained unaffected by lower rank 1's demon dream eyes, which puzzled Tanjiro. Why was Inashuk immune to the blood demon art? Or was this a deliberate ploy by lower rank 1 to prevent Tanjiro from easily escaping the dream? If so, he was in serious danger. After a fierce internal struggle, Tanjiro hesitated to self-harm. He asked Inashuk, "Inashuk, why aren't you affected? Is this a dream or reality? I'm wearing my boar head mask. Those dead fish eyes can't accurately target my line of sight. Inashuk replied immediately. He then plunged his sword into one of the eyes. Tanjiro found Inashuk's explanation logical, but still debated whether to trust him. After another internal struggle, he chose to believe Inashuk. Having been tricked before, Tanjiro didn't dare look away, focusing intently on Inashuk. Inashuk, if this is real, act quickly. As we planned. Tanjiro urged. Inashuk crouched, leaped, and unleashed a devastating area of effect attack on the combustion chamber floor. Beast breathing, 4th form, slice, N, dice. Beast breathing, 4th form, slice, N, dice. This technique features wildly unpredictable swordsmanship, lacking any discernible pattern, yet each strike generates extremely powerful, razor-sharp, saw-toothed sword energy with exceptional tearing power. Seeing Inashuk use his beast breathing, Tanjiro became more certain they were in reality. Lower rank 1, while capable of controlling dreams, couldn't possibly know Inashuk's breathing techniques. Inashuk's shattering blade flurry unleashed over a dozen powerful, saw-toothed waves of sword energy, instantly pulverizing the tumors encasing them. The pulverized flesh splattered around the combustion chamber. The hole in the floor, after Inashuk's repeated strikes, grew significantly larger. Lower rank 1's cervical vertebra was now clearly exposed. Tanjiro knew this was his chance and immediately activated his breathing technique. This time, he didn't use water breathing but chose the Hinokamai Kagura breathing form taught to him by his father. After using Hinokamai Kagura against lower rank 5 on Natagyumo Mountain, Tanjiro knew its attacks were more powerful and overwhelming than water breathing. Fearing water breathing wouldn't be enough for a one-hit kill, Tanjiro opted for the more reliable Hinokamai Kagura. Hinokamai Kagura, dance. Hinokamai Kagura, dance. Technique details, unknown. Tanjiro's Nichiren blade ignited with intense flames and light. He then swung it down forcefully at lower rank 1's cervical vertebra. 347, Chapter 347. Tanjiro gripped his flaming Nichiren blade, raised it high above his head, and swung it down in a counterclockwise arc towards lower rank O. Tanjiro gripped his flaming Nichiren blade, raised it high above his head, and swung it down in a counterclockwise arc towards lower rank 1's cervical vertebra. The blazing Nichiren blade instantly struck the massive vertebra, and with its counterclockwise swing, a circular ring of fire formed. The sharp ring of fire instantly expanded, radiating outwards. The next second, the entire combustion chamber connected to the locomotive was bisected by the fiery ring, cleanly severing lower rank 1's cervical vertebra. The severed locomotive emitted a horrifying scream, a cacophony of sounds like countless tormented ghosts from hell, incredibly shrill and unpleasant. The locomotive derailed and tumbled off the tracks. The carriages, having become part of lower rank 1's body, reacted as if alive, contorting in agony after his decapitation. The tumors within the carriages became more agitated, growing wildly and uncontrollably, covering the carriages inside and out as if in a final, desperate struggle for survival. The tumors transformed into numerous arms, clawing at the air, seemingly resentful of their demise. Tanjiro and Inashuk, huddled in the remaining half of the combustion chamber, felt the violent shaking of the carriages and knew derailment was imminent. Tanjiro told Inashuk, "Inashuk, hold on tight. We're going to flip." As soon as he finished speaking, all the carriages, in a violent twist and turn, derailed and overturned onto the tracks. Although Tanjiro grabbed onto a window during the derailment, the immense inertia caused a searing pain in his abdominal wound, preventing him from using his strength. He was thrown from the train. Inashuk, however, displayed remarkable ingenuity. Unable to maintain his balance due to the inertia, he plunged both his Nichiren blades deep into the tumors, gripping the hilts tightly to prevent being thrown off. Due to the special nature of his Nichiren blades, they embedded firmly in the flesh, preventing him from being flung out along with his swords. The 10 carriages overturned onto the tracks with a tremendous crash. The high-speed derailment sent the carriages sliding a considerable distance before coming to a stop. During the slide, a screeching sound of metal on metal could be heard, along with sparks from the friction between the carriages and the tracks. When the carriages finally stopped, the scene was a mess. The tumors covering the carriages slowly turned to ash. The rapidly expanding tumors had acted as shock absorbers during the derailment, protecting the innocent passengers inside like airbags, cushioning them and preventing them from being thrown around or injured. 348, Chapter 348. Lower rank 1 had intended to cause a catastrophic train wreck to take everyone with him in death, but ironically, his cell survival RESP. Lower rank 1 had intended to cause a catastrophic train wreck to take everyone with him in death, but ironically, his cell survival response protected the passengers. Perhaps the ultimate irony of his death. Immediately after the train stopped, Inashuk leaped out of the combustion chamber and searched for Tanjiro near the tracks. Under the illumination from the lights of other carriages, Inashuk quickly spotted Tanjiro lying 10 meters from the tracks. "Tanjiro!" Inashuk shouted, rushing to his side and carefully lifting him up. "Are you okay? Snap out of it." Inashuk anxiously asked, slapping Tanjiro's face. Tanjiro was disoriented and lightheaded. He weakly asked, "Inashuk, are you all right?" "I'm perfectly fine. No cold either." Inashuk replied earnestly. "Tanjiro, your stomach's bleeding. It looks serious." Inashuk pointed out. "I'm fine, Inashuk. I can't move right now. Go save the others first. And that fireman I knocked out, how is he? Is he okay?" Tanjiro, unconcerned about his own injuries, prioritized saving others. "Why do you care about that bad guy? That jerk probably died." Inashuk didn't understand why Tanjiro would care for someone who had hurt him. "Please, Inashuk. He was manipulated by the demon. He's a victim too." Tanjiro pleaded. Seeing Tanjiro's insistence, Inashuk reluctantly put Tanjiro down. "Fine, I'll reluctantly check on him, since you asked." During the derailment, Inashuk hadn't paid attention to the fireman. Considering he was unconscious, he might have been thrown from the train and killed. Even if he wasn't dead, he was certainly injured. Inashuk searched the area and found the fireman pinned under a carriage. The pain had apparently roused him from unconsciousness, and he was groaning in agony. Seeing Inashuk approach, the fireman became frightened, yelling, "Stay back! Stay back!" He feared retribution. Inashuk, unsurprisingly, wasn't inclined to be kind. Seeing himself being pushed away, Inashuk abandoned the idea of helping Tanjiro. "Humph, then just wait to die," Inashuk said with displeasure, turning to leave. The fireman, realizing Inashuk wasn't there for revenge, called out, "Don't go! Don't go! Help me! Save me! Why should I save a bad guy?" Inashuk replied indifferently. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been manipulated by that monster. Please save me. Give me another chance. I'll be a good person." The fireman begged. Inashuk didn't immediately respond, but he wasn't unwilling to help. He'd promised Tanjiro, and he would keep his word. However, he couldn't lift the carriage alone. He decided to check on the other team members first and then find a way to rescue the fireman. "Hey, don't go. Please. Wah!" The fireman cried, remorseful tears streaming down his face. 349, Chapter 349. "I lost. My body can't regenerate. Am I going to die? How is this possible? I didn't devour a single person. Merging with the train. I lost. My body can't regenerate. Am I going to die? How is this possible? I didn't devour a single person. Merging with the train, the plan to devour hundreds of humans at once, all for nothing. And I die in this hideous form." A mass of flesh near a carriage window, sprouting eyes and arms, attempting to reform into a human shape, muttered in bitter self-reproach. Despite lower rank 1's desperate efforts to reconstruct his body, it was futile. Though he retained consciousness, he had lost all aggression. All he could do was writhe his grotesque form as his life ebbed away, like a dying insect. "It's all those two's fault. If they hadn't stopped me, everyone on the train would have been devoured, over 200 people. If I'd devoured them all, my power would have increased significantly. Even the Hashira wouldn't have been a match for me. Ha ha ha." Lower rank 1 died with a maniacal laugh, his last vestiges of consciousness dissolving into ash. After his death, the tumors in the other carriages dissipated even faster, vanishing completely within seconds, leaving not even a trace of scent. Lower rank 1 was as if he'd never existed. "You must have mastered total concentration, constant. Total concentration, constant is the first step to becoming a Hashira. You truly have talent." Kyojuro Rengoku appeared before Tanjiro, looking down at him. "Rengoku-san." Tanjiro exclaimed, relieved. "Try to refine your breathing. Find the damaged blood vessels in your abdomen. By focusing your breath, you can seal the damaged vessels and stop the bleeding," Rengoku instructed. Tanjiro, somewhat bewildered, followed Rengoku's instructions. Refining his breathing, he quickly sensed the flow of blood throughout his body. He located the severed vessels in his abdomen and sealed them with his breath. Well done. Breathing can not only stop bleeding and slow the worsening of injuries, but it can also numb nerves, reducing pain and maintaining your fighting ability. Don't forget this next time you're injured, Rengoku said, seeing Tanjiro had stopped the bleeding. I understand, Rengoku-san. Thank you for your guidance. Tanjiro gratefully replied. Refine your breathing to its peak. It can enable you to do many things. While not omnipotent, it will certainly make you stronger than you were before, Rengoku continued. Yes. Tanjiro responded, attempting to sit up. However, his muscles were too weak, and he couldn't do it alone. Don't push yourself. You've lost a lot of blood, it won't heal that quickly, Rengoku said, noticing Tanjiro's attempt. Rest assured, everyone in the carriages is safe. Your senior, Ryaji, is an incredibly skilled demon slayer. If Jiyu wasn't the water Hashira, it would have been him, Rengoku added, reassuring Tanjiro. Bang! A loud thud echoed, like a heavy object striking the ground, a very loud sound. 350, Chapter 350. Meanwhile, after the train derailed, Ryaji immediately rushed to the last carriage where the Zanjutsu squad was located. During the rescue. Meanwhile, after the train derailed, Ryaji immediately rushed to the last carriage where the Zanjutsu squad was located. During the rescue, Ryaji had encountered Kyojuro Rengoku, who informed him that Tanjiro and Inashuk were searching for the demon's main body. After the derailment, the passengers gradually woke up, leading Ryaji to believe Tanjiro and Inashuk had succeeded. On his way to the last carriage, Ryaji encountered Rengoku again, and they briefly spoke. Upon learning Ryaji was going to check on the Zanjutsu squad, Rengoku decided to go to the locomotive to check on Tanjiro and Inashuk. They then separated. Shortly after, Ryaji arrived at the last carriage. He saw Zenitsu protecting Nezuko, while Kyojuro had her sword pointed at Zenitsu, displaying hostility towards Nezuko. Listen up, you she-devil. Nezuko is a girl Senpai Ryaji would die to protect, and she's Tanjiro's sister. If you dare harm her, Senpai Ryaji, Tanjiro, and I won't let you off. Zenitsu warned Kyojuro firmly. Kyojuro found Zenitsu's words unbelievable. She didn't believe such a powerful demon slayer as Ryaji would protect a demon girl. Zenitsu's words, however, reminded Shinichi Murata of rumors he'd heard at the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters. He spoke up, what Zenitsu said could be true. Shortly after returning from Spider Mountain, I heard rumors that Senpai Ryaji fought fiercely with the Wind Hashira to protect a demon girl. Murata's words didn't cause Kyojuro to lower her sword. The Zanjutsu squad didn't know about Nezuko. Upon waking and seeing Nezuko, Kyojuro assumed she was a malevolent demon and immediately drew her sword, only to be stopped by Zenitsu. A tense standoff ensued. Others gradually woke up, but unlike Kyojuro, they didn't attack Nezuko, though they remained wary. This was the scene Ryaji encountered. Kyojuro, put your sword down. None of you are to harm Nezuko. Otherwise, I'll kill you first. Ryaji commanded, his tone firm and unwavering. Kyojuro's eyes widened in disbelief at Ryaji's words. Seeing Ryaji's determination and the faint killing intent in his eyes, Kyojuro sheathed her Nichiren blade, glaring angrily at Ryaji. Ryaji's actions confirmed the rumor's truth for Murata. After Kyojuro sheathed her blade, Ryaji's expression softened. He formally addressed the Zanjutsu squad. I'm making a formal announcement to your squad. Nezuko, though a demon, has never eaten humans and never will. Therefore, none of you are to harm her. Disobey, and you will be killed.
Every novel listed in the description comes with permanent access to the audiobook on Telegram. You pay once, and if the novel is still ongoing, you'll receive all future updates automatically. No extra cost. Choose your novel from the description, then DM me on Telegram, WhatsApp, or Discord. After payment via PayPal, Ko-Fi, or Patreon, you'll get instant access. Simple, secure, lifetime listening. Guys, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Your support means a lot.